Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It is 7:30, we have a quorum, we have a hearing. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, notice is hereby given that the Bolton Planning Board will hold a continuation of public hearing on Wednesday, September 13th, 2017, at 7:30 PM in the Board of Selectmen room of the Town Hall, 663 Main Street, Bolton, Mass., to hear and act upon the application of Two Rock Development LLC, 205 School Street, Framingham, Mass. The application is for farmland and open space planned residential development, phosphid plan for 649 Main Street. Property identified on Bolton's Assessor Map 2 as Parcel 12, located in Bolton's residential zoning district. The proposed development consists of a 5-lot subdivision, and contemporaneously, in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, notice is hereby given that the Bolton Planning Board will hold a continuation of public hearing on Wednesday, September 13, 2017 at 7:30 PM in the Board of Selectmen room of the Town Hall, 663 Main Street, Bolton, Mass., to hear and act upon the application of Two Rock Development LLC, 205 School Street, Framingham, Mass. The application is for a common driveway special permit for 649 Main Street, property identified on Bolton's Assessor's Map 2.0 as Parcel 12, located in Bolton's residential zoning district, and the proposed development consists of a 5-lot subdivision. Take it away.
Good evening. Brandon Ducharme and Dillis. Here tonight with attorney Paul Alphin. And on behalf of Two Rock Development, we have Paul and Lynn Landers. As you said, we filed for a phosphid open space development, acquiring frontage off of Main Street, as well as a common driveway to access 4 new lots, and there is 1 existing lot. We have obviously opened the hearing, we've presented the plans, and we've kind of been working back and forth with comments from the board, as well as comments received from your review consultant, Fred Hamway, who's also with us tonight. So I figured maybe the first thing to do is to kind of clean up some of the comments. We've actually, since the last meeting, provided you with 2 comment letters, and if you want, we can go point by point through those. And then probably what we'll do is I'm going to hand it over to Paul, and he's going to talk a little bit about the open space and how, you know, who's going to take ownership of that and some different plans. So I guess we'll start with the August 31st response letter. And again, this is in response to both Fred Hamway's comments as well as comments from the board. So the first comment, note 2.1.2 should state where shown on plans, not where grades are 5% greater, and mass spec for riprap. And again, this is just it's a note on a detail on specifying riprap. We basically corrected the note per the comment. The thickness of riprap should be shown along with the mass spec for riprap for the spillway and swale. The thickness of the riprap was added to the detailed plan. It was determined that the mass spec for riprap is too large for the proposed project. The proposed riprap diameter was called out on the detailed plans. And I don't know if, by all means, chime in on some of these if you've got anything else to add, Fred. Number 3, EAD sign number 3 should be changed to show the correct lots, arrows, and directions. Our response is that the plans were corrected accordingly. Some additional comments. The fire department should be contacted with regards to their acceptability of the dry hydrant, which is 300 feet from the site. The response is, you know, obviously, we've had a few other meetings prior to this where we actually had the fire chief here, and at that point we decided to sprinkle homes, so we're really not proposing any
dry hydrant. Got it.
Hydrant.
So what feeds those? Just a well, the residential well at the house?
Correct, yeah. Detailed grading.
Just on that, so if is there some method to basically apply power to the well if the house has lost power due to the fire? And if their electrical box, you know, is what's caught fire, how do you feed into the well? How do you feed power to the well to feed the sprinklers?
So I would imagine whatever this system is going to be in accordance with the fire code, you know,
Okay.
and how they look at that. And again, this is preservation of life, so it's kind of a quick blast, usually early on, to basically get people out. It's not to save property or anything like that, where it's an ongoing fire fighting
Right.
thing. But yeah, I mean, typically if there was a backup generator or something, it would be connected in and tied in, so you obviously have the well in use. Detailed grading of the common driveway at the intersection with Main Street should be shown on the plans. Duchamp Dillis has agreed to show this information on the next set of revised plans, and that was added. We showed some spot grades at the intersection on sheet 2 of the plans. In the stormwater operation and maintenance manual, the maintenance of the stone riprap and swale should be addressed. Our response, maintenance of the stone riprap, has been added to the operation and maintenance manual. There was a comment regarding performing soil testing within the infiltration ponds. Since the last meeting, we've gone out and we've excavated and done soil testing in those pond areas to document groundwater elevation. A detail of the culvert must be submitted, and we have provided a detail. It was added to the plan set. Detail of the pipe trench should be revised to change from the pipe from ADS to an RCP, so plastic to a concrete pipe, and that was noted on the plans. A table showing the stage storage of the forebay should be shown on the plans. That was added to sheet 2 of the revised set that was submitted. The following comments are from the planning board. A natural woodland buffer or proposed landscaping should be created in between the homes to create a barrier. We've kind of done that. We've adjusted our limit of clearing on the plans to try to incorporate. I mean, obviously, where we're grading, you know, there's going to be removal of vegetation, but we've tightened that up kind of as much as we can. And I would imagine, you know, beyond that, homeowners will, you know, obviously.
They'll do what they'll need to do. And now, it'll be on the plans, a general approximation of
The
the,
limit of clearing is on there now,
Got it.
which did tighten it up, and we kind of tried to bring the,
okay.
you know, that up.
And same thing with the boundary of trees in between the piece of property and 117. I know you and I talked about it a little bit. You had identified a number of trees that need to come down, but the remaining staying.
There's
That's
really
marked on-
only a handful of trees, I think.
That's awesome.
The drive there. Yeah.
That's marked on the plans?
Yes, yeah,
Awesome.
the ones being removed are marked on the plan, yeah. The wells should be shown on the plan, so the private wells have been added. Planning board suggests the term "to the maximum extent practical" should be removed from 1.2 of the stormwater report, since the proposed project does meet all requirements. So section 1.2 was corrected. We provided a cross-section detail in response to the comment of the proposed infiltration basin. Pond 2 appears to be within 50 feet of an existing wetland. A 50-foot buffer should be maintained between the infiltration and the existing wetland. So we've modified slightly, and it was only really a matter of a few feet, but to achieve that 50-foot buffer. We've also had a few meetings with the Conservation Commission and we did get some feedback from them and looked at those basins, and we have obtained order conditions for the project. The capture area adjustments need to be added to the recharge calculation sheet. Those were added. Stormwater report currently states under Standard 8 that the SWIP will be submitted with the report. However, a SWIP was not being submitted. We basically changed the wording, and the SWIP will be provided prior to construction. The existing IWPA, interim wellhead protection area from off-site, should be shown on the plans. We've added that so you can see the limits of the IWPA on our site. Straw wattles or compost filter tubes should be used for erosion instead of proposed hay bales. Obviously, we brought this up with the Conservation Commission. Where they were comfortable, we did swap that out, but there was a few areas where we either had steep grades coming down or particularly around Pond 2, they were more comfortable having the hay bale
Okay.
and the silt fence, but we did try to substitute some out to just the straw wattles. Shade tree hearing is required for the removal of trees in the public way. be filed for that hearing. The MPDES SWIP may require Mass Historical Commission to review the project. We looked online, and then ultimately we just called Mass Historical to see if it required filing, and they did not require review. And the last comment letter is really just in regards to a couple of additional comments Fred Hamway had. This letter was issued on September 11th. Culvert
I didn't realize.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, well, you'll get it.
Okay, it's really just two quick comments, but culvert detail, check guardrail note and show the bedding material. So we basically added the bedding material to the detail on both culverts. And from the planning board meeting, the fire chief requests that the private driveways also be 12 feet wide. So the plan to incorporate that, the private driveways are 12 feet wide.
Okay.
And I think there's a note to that effect as well.
There is.
Yep. So, I don't know if you have any closing comments on that, or just kind of where you feel as though we're at with the engineering?
No, everything, they've addressed everything that I had from my comments along with what was from the planning board. The cross-section of the detention basin and so forth, the fire chief wanted the 12-foot drives and so forth. So everything was been done. I had written to you yesterday? Today. That everything was acceptable, that all the plans have been revised according to everybody's comments as far as I could see. The other one is the tree location, and that's a subjective decision on your part as a board, the tree lines or whatever.
So I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at the revised plans, but that basically kind of goes through the laundry list that we had, and I don't know if you guys have any other additional questions pertaining to the engineering.
I did not.
Did Danielle send any comments?
She didn't know. She did say at the site visit that her comments had been addressed, though.
Oh, okay.
I do remember her
Great.
saying that.
Talk about the open space then?
Yeah, so I guess I'll hand it over to Paul now and kind of talk about that a little bit.
Thank you. I've looked at the draft decision, and I'm looking for some clarification, because in the beginning of the paragraph numbered 1, it talks about the delivery of the deed conveying the property to Paul Landers. And then later, it talks about the land may be owned either by the town, the conservation trust, or homeowners association, etc. And I was trying to juxtaposition what you had in mind, whether there was going to be, you were anticipating 2 different conveyances, or whether you were anticipating a conveyance to Paul or an entity, and having the deed recite that the property could, if further conveyed, could only be conveyed to the town or a trust or a homeowners association. How have you done it in the past?
I think it's been done several different ways. I think the decision that you probably have a copy of, I actually updated it today, just based on a conversation I had with Brandon. Originally, we were thinking that Paul wanted to own the property and it would be farmland. But now it sounds like...
Yeah, and I guess just to back up, and that was kind of the first conversation we had, it was both presented to this board and the Conservation Commission that the Landers wished to continue, he's got his garden and everything there, they wanted to continue to be stewards of the land. And that was the desire, it was really in talking with Paul, where, from a legal standpoint, in order for them to do that, it sounds like we needed a third party, or like a conservation restriction, or some type of entity that basically would help secure that. And in doing that, it sounds like it was going to not be a simple process, I guess, and if you sort of add into that.
So what we'd like to do is convey the property to the town, and we'd like to retain farming rights on the property for some set period of time. And if the Landers discontinue farming for some period of time, those rights would be extinguished, and then the town would be able to, convey rights to other parties and farm it, do whatever they wanted to. So we wanted to convey it once and convey it to the town. I guess the curiosity I have is in this draft, and maybe I'm working off an old draft, but I was out of the office all afternoon in town, and it talks about a agricultural preservation restriction. And I don't know if you're anticipating an agricultural preservation restriction that would have to be signed off by the Commissioner of the Department of Agriculture, or if the town owned it. Some sort of restriction document language in the deed would be sufficient.
Right, the agricultural preservation restriction only applied if it was going to be farmland, because in some way we would have needed to restrict the use of the property, right?
Wonderful.
So now that it's open space, and if we deed it to the town, there really is no need for conservation restriction, unless we don't go that direction, and it's either, is deeded to a conservation trust, or it goes to the homeowners association. In that respect, then the town would want to be covered and would likely want to do a conservation restriction.
So if we put a condition of approval that the property would be conveyed to the town, would deliver a deed to the town, and subject to some right to farm easement that the landers have, and I could draft something up so you could see what it was, then that should be sufficient. And I guess the only sticking point would be is, since the acceptance of land by town meeting is a discretionary act, there's a 1 in 1 millionth chance the town wouldn't accept the deed, and then you have to have a fallback position. Is that about right?
And that's actually what I was just going to mention, is that I think, out of respect to the Conservation Commission, because they would be the ones that would own the property, I would want them to weigh in, possibly even take a vote.
So if it's the town, it's the Conservation
It's typically the
Commission.
Conservation
Then you don't need, I don't think you need
Commission.
a town meeting vote then. I think-
No, it doesn't require a town meeting
Right,
vote,
right.
no. But I think out of respect for the commission, though, they don't know this at this point. I mean, I believe at the point when you were going before them, they believed it was going to be farmland, Paul was gonna retain ownership.
We've done this in the past, so I can't imagine it's hairy.
Yeah, we didn't
I
really.
don't think it is.
But
It's
it-
just,
But I worry about things that may not happen.
Yeah.
As you should, yeah.
The vehicle of how we did, I don't think was as important to them, as they were really weighing in from the fact that, do they see some sort of public benefit, and specifically trails, access, that sort of thing, where they wanted to control it, or did they not really see those items? And, absolutely, it's the best interest to have the landers just to continue to use the land. And that's what they looked at. They looked at the closest trails, and it was parcels removed, so they really didn't see any need for that, or any real value to the access.
Concom or the trust?
This is the Conservation Commission.
Got it.
That's who we're talking about
Right,
first.
and
And that's when at that point, they were all for, the landers continuing to
Okay.
maintain it and use it the way that they've been using it.
right, and I did speak to Rebecca Longval today, who's our conservation agent, and she believes that the board, or the commission, will likely want to own it, but in fairness, it should be, vetted out during a public meeting where they can discuss it. And I believe at the time too, they were pushing for, on the plan showing that the agricultural fields not be disturbed. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a note that was added to the
Okay,
plan.
so I actually added that as a
Yeah.
condition of the
Okay,
permits
yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
since that seemed to be a sticking point for her, so.
So how do you draft it now that if it's still subject to the Conservation Commission accepting it? Does it say, to the Conservation Commission, but if they don't accept it, it goes to the Board of Selectmen?
I think we could leave it
Get them to chime
open-ended.
in.
Okay.
If the board decides they want to make a decision tonight, I think.
Oh, of course
we
they
should-
do.
I think they could leave it open-ended and just literally say it's either going to be owned by the town, a conservation trust, or the homeowners association, and then we work out the details after the fact.
I would
think
want to do
that's-
that and close
I
it.
think that's
That would be-
fine, or
There's
we
no
leave it
reason.
open and we allow
So
the
we don't even have
conservation
to adjust what we
commission.
have here then?
No, and that's kind of, I gave you two options
Yeah.
as to what we could do,
Yeah.
so.
And then your revised language is to talk about the timing of the delivery of the deed, because the current language says
Yes.
it'll be done before we buy a shovel.
Yes, and that's pretty standard.
So,
We would want to see that language. It doesn't have to be recorded, but we'd want to at least get a draft so that we can have town council review
so you
it.
want the draft submitted, not
Yes.
necessarily the deed recorded?
The deed gets recorded, I believe, I'll have to reread it, but I think it's when the issuance of the occupancy. I think that's the timing of the
Okay.
recording.
Well, we can get to the document, that's not a problem.
Okay.
All right, good. All right.
The only thing I did not address, though, was providing rights to do the farming, and I don't know if it's in perpetuity or if it's just for an
Well,
extended
no, I
period of
think,
time.
I think what we have in
That's
mind
not
is
addressed.
15, 20 years, and, until Paul gets exhausted, to have that right. And if he doesn't exercise those rights for some period of time, if, 2-3 years goes by and it lies fallow, that then that right would be extinguished and it would go back to the town.
Now,
Or if he just decided not to do it, the right would be extinguished.
do you want that right to be exclusive to Paul, or can we do it to the homeowners association of the Foxbury to make it cleaner in case Paul decides he wants to sell and then there's a new owner?
I'm not anticipating to create a formal homeowners association.
Oh, okay.
So I'm proposing that the town would have the ownership and control over the property, and the town, because I think some of your language in the bylaw talks about the ability to lease it out to farmers.
Yes.
And I would expect that the town would have complete control over that at that time. I don't want to leave it up to the lovely families that will move in here and have them sort this out.
I think I would prefer to just have it expire if he chooses to sell.
Okay.
Or a date certain, like 15 years, 20
Okay.
years from now,
We
something
can,
like that.
we can do that.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
It just makes it easier.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of homeowner associations, we talking about the driveway yet? Or are we talking about that later? The common driveway special permit?
We can have it, but
Yeah, we can talk about it.
We had prepared a draft of the declaration of common driveways, and it's remarkably similar to the declaration of common driveways that I've used for the last 32 years. And it isn't a formal association with a capital A. It's an association of the homeowners with a small a, and your bylaw, I think, uses a small a as well. It's not, we didn't form a trust, and all the homeowners have to be members of the trust and create a lot of machinations. We made the association specifically these 4 homeowners and their obligations to each pay 1/4 of the cost of all that. And hopefully that's how you've done it in the past, and you haven't needed an LLC or a trust or something for the homeowners to belong to.
Have we?
No, we
All right, excellent. Then we're fine.
Okay.
No, and like I think I had mentioned to Brandon, we'll probably just condition it anyway, just for town council to weigh in to make sure we don't have any edits and then.
Wonderful.
I made comments to you today about a few things that are
Yes.
kind of construction related that
Yeah.
are not in here. They would be in here, this is the right document to put them into.
I started to update some of your comments. Did you want to talk about lighting and sidewalk first and kind of get those answered? And
Sure.
then we can talk about construction?
Lighting is something that, as you guys recall from other subdivisions, most homeowners don't want to see. Do you guys have it? We didn't see any type of a lighting plan. I know it's residential where we don't get much of a robust lighting plan, but what's your plan for lighting?
Well, I think
Nothing?
the only thing we're mixing up is, so both lighting and sidewalks are 2 hot button issues when we're talking about a subdivision in the form of a creation of a roadway.
Yep.
Where this is a common driveway, there are no requirements for either. So what we're proposing is consistent with every other common driveway. No lighting, no sidewalks,
Got it.
nothing like that.
Got it.
Certainly that weighs in on these ones where we're creating a roadway, and those are requirements of your bylaw.
Yep, okay. We talked a little bit about either a fee in lieu of type of agreement, not a restriction, not a requirement, but an agreement, something we'd ask you guys to do, or sidewalk construction. I mean, I haven't talked to the board about it, obviously, but it's something from the project to town hall to 626 Main Street, where there's a retail facility, something like that might make sense. Or if you would prefer, some sort of a donation would be enjoyed by the town in terms of using it by the mobility committee to do it, if not right here on site, then, or if not right here adjacent to the site, then someplace else in town. We talked about that a little bit with you guys during the last year. Do you have thoughts about that?
Well, Greg had mentioned, I mean, again, kind of just to the same comment I made, is, in lieu of, to me, means that it's a requirement that we're not going to perform, and where it's not required. And I can't think of a single common driveway in town that has a sidewalk, particularly with, 4 homes there, on a private driveway.
I'm thinking of it in the context more of a phosphid permit and less of a common driveway, where we're doing a little bit of a subdivision with some houses. It's not a requirement, but we asked you guys.
So the option
to
would be
consider
to provide a sidewalk on the common driveway, or if we don't want the sidewalk, some sort of a,
Some sort of
Not
a-
on the common driveway, either along the frontage or like a fee in lieu for not doing the sidewalk along the frontage of the property.
What do you
So
mean?
it's that sidewalk along Main Street.
So what do you mean a
That's what
fee in lieu? What do you mean by that?
a donation to the town that we have.
Oh, not a fee in land, you're talking about money,
Yeah.
Correct.
that kind of fee.
Yeah.
A fee to develop your land. I thought you were talking about an easement.
No,
no,
instead of doing the
no.
sidewalk, maybe you pay for, you provide a donation that would cover the cost of the sidewalk if we were to do it.
Historically, when we've looked at phosphorids, the developer, and more to the point, the residents within the town, don't like to see sidewalks within the subject neighborhood that's being developed, within that phosphorus development. But typically what has happened is a voluntary contribution by the applicant to set aside some amount of money to go into our town's fund to develop sidewalks where they actually are desired. Usually, it's nowhere near the subject piece of property. In this case, I could personally see a lot of benefit of connecting this property to our one of two retail strips in town, which is right across the street.
So I think you kind of hit it there, because exactly on these other subdivisions we've done, I know we've decided to get rid of them, and the fee was paid, I think, in lieu of.
Yes.
And that, a lot of that was done at the discretion that, an area downtown may be a better application for them. So, certainly if those fees have been paid and waiting for an application like this, kind of a pulse point, looking at an easement or something to allow that going through, but I think from our standpoint, instead of using our own piggy bank, if those fees were collected on other projects, this may be a site. I don't know how you want to handle that.
The other thing I just point out, there's a sidewalk across the whole frontage of this property. And it is on the opposite side of the street, but it's a sidewalk that goes all the way along the center of town.
To
It
play
connects
devil's
60
advocate, in some pretty bad disrepair. So this is not a requirement, but this is something that we're putting together a special permit. I think we're agreeing to a few waivers, and we would like you guys, we had asked you guys to consider something like this.
Howdy, Wilson Main Street. I just want to mention that it is impossible to cross the road. No, at any time of the day. Maybe in the middle of the night you can get across without being hit. But I don't know if that has any bearing on this, but you can make as many sidewalks as you want, and it would be nice. But to get from there, say, to the Open Beach, you take your life in your own hands.
Thank you for that. Spoken my piece on that.
Could I ask what the town would have in mind, what the cost of a sidewalk would be, 1,000 feet of sidewalk? Or how does it come up with a relevant idea of what would be fair or?
Sure. What did we do last time? What's the most recent one we did?
I think it was I think it's Clinton Savings Bank, and I think they actually calculated what it would cost to build the sidewalk, and then they gave.
From where to where? Along their frontage?
No, because they built the
They built
sidewalk
along their frontage.
frontage.
That was part of our
Yeah.
agreement with them, yeah.
That's how I know they have it, just because that's back to where they were actually required.
Yep.
So at that point, the applicants were counting on that. They
No
were
doubt,
going
no
into
doubt.
the
No, it's a fair
development that.
Have we
they were
not
gonna-
done it ever on a subdivision?
Not
Am I
for
wrong?
common
Well,
driveway.
this isn't a subdivision.
Right.
I understand.
Right, okay.
Well, it's kind of skirting the subdivision, the common driveway and phosphorus is kind of so it's not quite a pure common driveway development, it's not quite a pure phosphorus, so kind of in a murky area here.
I didn't think it was that murky.
Well, I mean, it's not a conforming conventional development that you get off of a common driveway normally. It's a phosphorus, but it doesn't quite meet some of
It's
the
not
size
your
requirements.
traditional
It's not,
20
it's
lot
not,
phosphorus,
yeah,
but
it's
it
not.
is
But it is, I guess I would submit too that it's a voluntary phosphorus in that we don't have, we're not a major residential here
It's a
either.
good point.
So-
That's a good point.
Where we could have developed the same number of lots conventionally by right, we're actually voluntarily doing a phosphorus and preserving open space. So it's-
Where your option could be a traditional and taking down the house.
Yeah, yeah.
Could I talk to council 1 minute?
I think things are going swimmingly.
Well, I mean, I don't know how you
Your
base, I just don't know how you
applicant's
base the fee, you know?
We're cool, Paul.
Okay.
We're good. We're cool.
Actually, I do have a question relating back to the open space. The conservation agent had told me that you do some active recreation on the property. You like to drive a four-wheeler on it?
I have my tractor there and, it's not a four-wheeler, it's
Oh, she's
like
a
a,
four-wheeler,
yeah, yeah.
So under the phosphorus, you can do 10%, up to 10% of active recreation. Is that something you're pursuing, or are we?
It's just an RTVX, it's just a dump truck, it's just like a four-wheel dump truck, it's not a quad or anything like that, it's just,
It was actually used to get my father-in-law around because he couldn't get out from the house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like we're riding around the woods with it, you know?
Got it.
Yeah.
On a phosphorus permit, is it customary for us to talk about construction staging areas? More to the point, I guess more of my concern is unloading of large equipment vehicles, whether it's done on the property.
Well, I think it depends on what you're constructing, I guess. If you're talking about equipment that's used for common driveway, I think it's pertinent to be in the common driveway decision.
So not in this document.
I mean, we can put it in both, I don't think it matters.
My concern would be, and tell me if this is consistent with what your plan would be to do, because maybe it's not a concern at all. With prior subdivisions, we've run into a lot of problems with unloading of large equipment used for the purpose of constructing roadways. The unloading has been done in the middle of the existing roadway, caused damage to town-owned property, caused traffic and safety concerns. This is 117 in the center of town. Where would you guys anticipate unloading equipment? Would it be on site, or would you anticipate unloading on 117? That would obviously be a concern.
Yeah, I mean, as you noted, it's a common issue, I guess,
Yep.
because, I mean, because you're talking before construction starts and before the common driveway is opened up, I mean, the only way to get into the property probably is to unload on the street.
Yep.
And, you know, I know in terms of any driveway here in town, that's why there's a bond that's actually paid, you know, so that in the event that any damage does happen, you know, that it can be covered in that way.
Sure.
Because really it just comes down to, anybody unloading should be putting boards, planks and everything on it. It's easy to prevent that from happening, so, you know, obviously any responsible delivery should take that. But traffic and that, you know, if it is 117, I mean,
Police
just
detail.
make sure that you have.
Notice
have
the
that
police detail, and if it's not, it's not. It's on your
And I really
property,
only
it's fine.
anticipate it at the beginning. You know, once you
Yep.
open up, you know, the opening for the common driveway, then there should be access to kind of
Okay.
get in there and unload on the property.
So we will add some words to that, but it will not at all be inconsistent with some of the things we've done in the past, and the concern that I just outlined, and won't be anything sexy.
I mean, I think, in this case, there's the pull-off in front of the existing house
Yep.
Well,
that you could pull, and that the truck could pull into unload. And the parking area where we kind of, you know, gathered for the sidewalk. So there are some alternatives in this site.
Right.
And then you kind of, instead of pulling the common driveway from the road in, you could kind of come kind of from the center, you know, cut toward the road.
versus staring at a undisturbed tree woodline where you have no
Right.
access into
Yeah,
the site on
exactly.
some projects in
You
town.
could kind of come in
This
from
is
the
a
back
little-
of the trees, right, you know, right along 117.
Yeah, there is that driveway, the crescent driveway in the front where,
Yeah.
you know, obviously we've been doing soil testing, those sorts of things, and that is where they've been parking. You know,
Yeah.
It's really.
If you need to use 117 on occasion, then you need to use it, and that's
Yeah.
fine, and you'll do it responsibly with plans. From a safety issue, just to repeat myself, we'll have a condition in there that we'll talk to police detail, giving them, you know, ample notice to get them arranged and out there. Hopefully it only it has to happen a couple of times, but we've had issues where we didn't have police detail on site. It's not acceptable.
Buses and, yeah.
Yeah.
Same kind of a comment. Does it go in this document, or does it go in our common driveway document, or perhaps both? But construction hours and days.
I've added it to both now.
Okay.
Originally, I only had it in the common, but now I have it in both because I think it applies to.
Okay. would be consistent, would give you the flexibility that you need, but would be consistent with some of the other larger subdivisions that we've done in town, where we're not doing it on Sundays or major holidays, and we're not doing it at night. We'll give you some flexibility beyond that when you need to do night, Sunday, major holidays on a case-by-case basis with, coming in and asking for permission for that one-off time. So we'll give you the flexibility you need, but.
Yeah, Eric was good enough to give us a copy of it. So we saw, that was in there,
Good.
so we saw that.
Okay, good.
We swapped through that thing.
I think that's all I had. That is all I had.
No, you speak.
Whomever.
Martha Remington, Chairman of the Historical Commission. I reside at Assessor's Map 4D, Lot 17. I wanted to ask Mr. Ducharme about the inquiry to Mass Historical Commission. Was that about the PNF, or was that a conservation, this thing? I think it came up in the last continuation. PNF, funding or permits from state
I think the issue,
or federal?
No,
And whom
yeah.
did you speak with at Mass Historical?
so just to clarify, it wasn't me personally, but Greg.
Yeah, it wasn't one of our guys called. It was in response to the discussion we had last time. We just called them and described the
Last
project.
time about the PMF that Tom Planner said was required for this PNF, must mean something.
The issue was, it came down to, it was the verbiage of site.
I think what you're referring to is the
Notification
NOI,
form.
the ENOI that needs to be
Notice of
filed.
intent, right, it was in
Yeah.
that context. We called them to ask to explain the situation. We're gonna have an EPA NOI. We're working on a 30-acre site with an existing house that's on the register that we're not going to be removing. We're going to be preserving it with the development. Do we need to file anything? They said no. I
And
don't
who is
remember.
they,
I don't remember
please?
who it was.
Whom,
I
well,
don't
it should be recorded whom it is.
Okay, I could get it.
Either
to you.
Mr. Skelly or Mr. Holtz or whatever. We
I
need
don't
to know
remember.
that name.
Okay.
Or maybe Betsy Friedberg?
It was a gentleman. I don't remember.
Well, could you please research that and let us know, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Because they have a lot of staff, and they're all very particular as to what subjects they are expertise in. And the other question that I had, Mr. Chairman, was the Historical Commission is leaning toward asking the owners about a preservation restriction on the existing 1830 house and barn. This would mean that after you folks were not owners, it would be preserved for the town. It's not a big deal, but the town hall has one. There's another home in Bolton that has one. It simply assures us that if there's a change of hands in that historic property, which is one of 3 that was built by Stephen Gardner, General Gardner from the Revolution, that it would be protected from demolition. So I just wanted to alert you, we haven't done anything on that yet. It doesn't mean you can't do things with the home. It simply tries to preserve it after you folks pass it on to another owner.
Preserve it how? To eliminate the potential for it to be raised, or to?
Yes,
to
a
give-
preservation restriction is both the interior and the exterior of an historic home. And I understand that that home has many original features, some latches, 5 fireplaces, original floors. We have not seen inside it, but I understand it is very historic on the interior. Normally, as far as the historic district goes, it's the exterior facade that we want to preserve for the look of the town. But we feel at this point that that would be the direction we want to go, to make sure that after the landers perhaps aren't living there or want to sell it to someone, that it would simply require, if there were major alterations, they were reviewed by Mass Historical. And it doesn't mean anything's prohibited, but it's simply for the good of New England, Massachusetts, and the town of Bolton. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I was simply trying to get attention for
Got it.
Martha.
Do we have other thoughts by the board or in the audience?
Related to Martha's comment, there is a condition in the permit that talks about preserving the historical structures just for the life of the permit. So I think in terms of the jurisdiction of the planning board, I think that's sufficient.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, could I inquire, what is the life of the permit?
They're both 24 months.
Well, we're talking a minimum of 30 years and ideally in perpetuity.
So if we were so inclined to close the hearing, could we do so while keeping open what we need to do on the common space? Or you think the way that it's drafted now gives you the flexibility to do what you need to do with the closed hearing?
We could certainly close the hearing at this point. I think we've received all the comments and information that we need. The board could wait to actually vote until their next meeting, when I could have a more updated draft for you to review, and then you could vote then and sign the permit then.
Well, what needs to be updated? It's just this either or statement, right, on 1B?
The whole thing, I would like to go through it again.
I would too.
Yeah.
But I have no,
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, just one more thing. A preservation restriction is simply a clause on the deed for the home that alerts present and future owners that it is an important historic structure. And it would simply mean, I mean, they could still have solar energy on their roofs. You know, it would simply mean that it wouldn't be destroyed as far as the whole context of the Main Street in town and the historic district. It shouldn't be a scary thing. It doesn't mean that things can't be added or little adjustments made.
do you have literature on it? I'd like to read it.
Yes, we do, and I will get you a copy of that.
And are you suggesting we condition our permit with them granting that restriction? Or this is something the Historical Commission can discuss with them separately to
Well,
about
when I
adding
found
on
out
to
from
the
town planner, Ms. Uriarte, that the restriction you have is only good for the life of the development, which is 24 months. That's 2 years. We're talking a minimum of 30 years and then renewal after that. Just so we keep it important until the 22nd century rather than just the immediate future. Because it is such an important home to the town.
But to Mr. Sprague's point, is that something you do, or is that something that you'd look for
The
us to
town would
enforce?
hold the preservation restriction. It could be held by the Conservation Trust, which is an independent group, but generally it would be held by the town of Bolton and administered through the Historical Commission if something came up for review, if they wanted to add something or take away a part of it, whatever.
I mean, it sounds like something that could be done in parallel on the side. I don't see how it gets tied to this.
That's what Historical Commission does. We're an arm of Mass Historical Commission
Yeah.
to try and protect the value of not only Massachusetts, but the whole New England look.
Yeah, so we'll take care of this, and then if you want to talk to the owner and work on that, I mean, that's pretty much how we go, right?
Any other questions from the audience?
I do. If we're going to come back for another meeting, is there any need to close the hearing so we can keep the dialogue going if something comes up during the...
If you want to keep it open, then
Yeah,
keep it open.
leave the hearing open. And I guess the only other thing I'd like to hear, because the sidewalk or fee in lieu was so important to you, I'd like to hear how the other board members feel about that so that we can weigh your comments.
Guys?
I mean, mobilities are always an issue, and we've asked every subdivision to, if they're not going to do sidewalks, to put it somewhere else. For the Forbush Mill Road one, they didn't want to do it inside, so we asked them to do a meandering sidewalk from the entrance of theirs to the corner of the Forbush and 117. I know we talked to them about that. We haven't gone through the whole definitive, but we did bring that up. What about Northwoods? You know,
They built one inside.
they built one inside.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of makes sense. if you're talking about a subdivision where the sidewalk would ordinarily be required by the rules and regulations, but on a common driveway, there is no requirement for
So there's
sidewalk.
not gonna be any definitive subdivision, right?
Right.
Decisions?
No, nope.
So, I mean,
in
Northwood's
the
actually
far-
a
in the-
portion, Northwoods did have a family.
yeah, that's what I thought. Because they weren't gonna put it in the front.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
I see that point too, though. I mean, but it's like kind of this
No,
weird
it's-
spot.
It's a tweener.
Yeah, it's in between.
Well,
I'm not calling it a requirement.
the provisions of the, it's exactly that, it's your subdivision rules and regulations that require it.
Yeah.
The phosphor bylaw doesn't, the
Right.
common driveway regs don't, and those are the two things.
Oh, I thought, you see, you're one up on me. I thought the phosphor did. I know the comment.
It doesn't require sidewalk, but
It
it's
encourages
a
it.
discretionary permit, so.
I think what we said-
can negotiate
That's
things
what
like
we're
that.
planning.
I think what we said last time is, we're giving you these waivers, you're gonna have equipment out there.
We have considered, it, by the way.
We gave you these waivers that you needed for this plan. Granted, we get the benefit of not having that
And I will
house.
step back, big picture, and tell you guys, we're getting 4 new houses in a big-ass chunk of land.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, we do look at this subdivision and say, we as a town, especially in the center of town on Main Street, where traffic can be an issue, we're kind of lucking out here. We understand that. We like this project.
I mean, I agree with that statement, just because they didn't have to do the phosphate layout. In
Oh,
doing
yeah.
that, they preserved
Right.
very
Yeah, we get it.
important
We
historical
get it,
yeah.
structures, so.
I think, but we also give away, so we were just saying, if you have equipment out there, if you could clean up the sidewalk on the other side, or, you know, if you had time, material. I don't know that I don't know that we'll set any specific.
I don't think we can.
Yeah, I think we're just saying it would be nice.
Oh, look at me, look at the guy with the checkbook. Look at the guy with the checkbook.
If you have guys hanging around and you want to dig up that sidewalk and redo
We'll
it,
talk among ourselves.
Yeah.
Does everybody else feel the same way? No? No?
I think if there was sidewalk along the section on that side of the road, I would feel more strongly about it. But since there's not, and there isn't really anywhere for sidewalk to go to, I don't feel as strongly about it, but I do agree that it's been done on other projects.
Okay, thank you.
One last question,
Mr. Chairman,
please.
yes. The sidewalk ends in front of Town Hall. It would be nice if there was a sidewalk from the common driveway in front of 649, 653, 655, whatever, up to Town Hall and the church. And then it would be tied in right up to Harvard Road.
In my perfect world, that's what I was thinking.
And I mean, it's not a long strip.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other folks? We will keep it open. A motion to continue, do we have a date? What do we need, 2 weeks? 2 weeks. We're back on the
We are back on.
full octane schedule?
Is it the 27th? Let me just double check.
27th?
27th.
Yes, the 27th, and we have no hearing scheduled at this point, so it can be for 7:30.
Okay, I move that we continue this hearing for 649 Main to September 27th at 7:30.
second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you really?
We did not carry it college last week.
No. So I said, we're not gonna-
I thought you were too.
All right, we should get moving. We've got a second here. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, notice is hereby given that the Bolton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, September 13, 2017, at 8:15 PM. Board of Selectmen room,
You're so close.
Town Hall, 663 Main Street, Milton, Mass. To hear and act upon the application of Tony and Danielle Koselka for a common driveway special permit for Long Hill Road. Property identified on Bolton's Assessor's Map 3.E as parcel 83, located in Bolton's residential zoning district. The proposed development consists of modifying an existing shared driveway to construct a common driveway to include parcel 3.E 83 with 345 and 369 Long Hill Road. Hello, again.
Brandon Ducharme again, Ducharme Dillis, here on behalf of Tony and Danielle Koselka. They're the owners of Lot 4C. And I guess to kind of begin the presentation, I'd like to begin with a bit of a history lesson, because we've actually kind of gone through this once before with the board. Obviously, there's different members at the time. It goes back to 2006, 2007, back when the Picornis, who no longer own this house, owned this house. They subdivided off a lot.
Just different members of Ducharme and Dillis, too?
So that's actually a good point. It was actually Ross Associates
Oh, okay.
that had done the original plan, and we're working with the Cornies, and they worked with two of the existing homeowners that had a shared driveway that went over that property to access those homes there, a few of which are here tonight, just to kind of point out. They went through the process, they got a common driveway approval done. Ross Associates had done a plan to basically improve the existing shared driveway to your common driveway standards. That was actually reviewed by Hanway Associates. It wasn't personally Fred at that time, but we did get some correspondence back and forth on that. Since then, the permits have expired. As much as even the legal work, everything was kind of drawn up at that time that this went through. The lot was sold. The Koselkas purchased this lot with the agreement that essentially the onus was on them to construct this driveway, or to approve this driveway. So I know prior to filing, we've spoken with Ross Associates, and again, instead of trying to recreate the wheel, we filed an initial application with their plans, obviously with their approval, to see if you guys would just be willing to kind of reissue the permit.
Yep.
And one of the things is whether or not it was going to be re-reviewed, which it was the decision to re-review it. Fred Hamway had a chance to basically go through that plan set again, and provided us, just to go all, obviously the regs have changed since then, potentially. So went through, we got some additional comments on that. Once we received those, we were kind of in the predicament where we went back to Ross and said, hey, we've got some plan revisions. Do you guys have some time to revise these plans? Which they didn't. And luckily, they were good enough to us where they provided us, with their work and allowed us the ability to kind of go in and provide some of the additional details that Fred was looking for. So with all that said, I guess I'll kind of quickly go over the plan. This is Long Hill Road.
So you redid it, but you had their notes effectively to at least help you.
It's basically
With the foundation.
It's not, I would say it's 95% their
Okay.
design.
Okay.
We didn't, for one of the examples, we didn't get in and redo drainage or anything like that.
Yeah.
Essentially, we just provided some additional detail.
Yeah, you brought it up to speed to
A couple of
27.
minor tweaks that we can discuss as we go
Okay.
over this. So, as Long Hill kind of comes down, Teal Road, the intersection with Teal breaks off to the left, and this section of Long Hill continues around. This is 333 Long Hill Road, and then this is the existing shared driveway that accesses both those homes in the back.
But not 333, that's got its own
That is
existing
on,
single.
yep,
Got it.
yep, exactly. So essentially, in order to improve this to common driveway standards, the first modification that needed to be made was you've got provisions for a leveling area as you kind of come off an existing road where, for the first 40 feet, the max grade is 4%. And in doing that and modifying it to achieve that, essentially we've got to kind of cut into this hillside, which is what you see here in those proposed grades. The original plan, for the most part, didn't change much else in the driveway, actually. Everything, obviously they had to incorporate a drainage design. So they were modifying some of those grades in order to super elevate, to capture some of that drainage off the existing driveway. Really, the only additions we did is as you look at the existing profile on the original, where the driveway kind of went up and it kind of sharply went down, we've added some vertical curves in there, that kind of soften some of those changes. Fred had us change one kind of where we go from the 4% into the 12% here, and there was one high point along the driveway there. So I guess the next thing, and obviously, lastly, the other thing we added was the turnouts. The driveway's going to need to be paved, and then ultimately at the terminus, we have to provide that 30 by 40 foot turnaround there.
So what gets paved? Everything?
So based upon the requirements, we're paving all the way up to the end where the last driveway splits off, and that's kind of where the terminus is, and we're going to have a 30 by 40 paved turnaround there.
So it's what I'm seeing in dark, and then the old shading is the existing conditions, it's gravel, it stays gravel. It's
Yes.
individual
Yeah.
driveways,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, unless they choose at the time when
Yeah,
it's
right.
approved
Something
that
that-
they wanted to
Okay.
do that. And obviously, the details are on the original plan are right out of your rules and regulations in your bylaw there
Yep.
as far as bedding material, pavement specifications and all that. So Fred has gone through that. If you want, we can quickly kind of go through
Yeah, briefly.
the waiver and then some notes on this. One of them is there's a requirement to crown the road essentially, and we're asking for a waiver to super elevate the road with requesting a 1/4 inch per foot slope across the driveway.
And where is that section on the diagram?
It's essentially the whole driveway here, we're super elevating it
Okay,
to sheet the runoff
okay.
instead of crowning the road, which kind of goes off each side. Trees along Long Hill Road to the north should be removed to create adequate sight distances, so that's along here.
Yeah.
So obviously, we added a note, we agree with that, the trees will be removed to obtain the sight distance. The intersection angle of the common driveway with Long Hill Road is close to the allowed 60 degrees. So essentially, we just went in and we dimensioned that and showed that it does meet that requirement, just adding that detail to the plan. The original plan did not call out that the 40 by 30 turnaround would be paved. They kind of showed gravel, and we've just changed that. We figured for what it's worth, we're just going to, pave it to keep it consistent with every other common driveway we've done. The staging construction entrance area should be shown on the plans. So we added a note calling out the location of the construction entrance, and we have a detail was added to sheet 2. The distance of the turnaround, essentially the requirement is that you need to turn off every 300 feet, and there was one spot on the original plan where it went beyond that. So we actually added an additional turnout to meet that requirement.
Where is your staging?
It's not really staging, it's the construction entrance. You use the word staging, but it's the construction entrance being what's riprap with stone and all to prevent tracking of dirt onto the roadway.
Okay.
It's not a staging, construction staging.
Okay.
It's a construction entrance.
The stone thickness in the stone line swale should be shown in the detail. That information was added. The sag and crest areas on the profile refer to notes 10 and 11 on sheet 1 indicate that the contractor is responsible to smoothly grade those areas out. And that's what I was talking about, kind of softening the existing, and there's a note that says the contractor could do that. We basically added it with vertical curves that specify what those curves need to be. Approximately 60 feet of common driveway drains onto Long Hill Road, and this area should be redesigned to eliminate that. And in order to do that, we've added another little drainage basin there that's going to essentially just collect that last little bit of runoff so it does not deposit it onto Long Hill Road. There was a note that referred to type C, not B, on the gravel specification. That was corrected. Details should be provided for an EAD signpost. That was added. Pipe trench detail should be provided, and we've done that. A pipe riprap detail was requested. We provided that. A detail, and most of these comments are just additional detail. Detail on the recharge trench is labeled 16 to 20 feet long. It should be 20, so that detail was corrected. On the drainage calculation notes soil testing, but no soil information was provided. And basically, the soil...
We have provided those. That letter doesn't say, but we have.
Okay, we received the soil logs from Ross Associates. And then Ed...
Just, so I've already reviewed that, and they're acceptable.
Okay.
So that comment is taken care of, even though that letter doesn't,
In this letter, okay, thanks.
doesn't say that. That's all set.
So then, as I kind of referenced at the beginning, there was an outstanding comment letter back in 2006. So some of these comments were from the original, one of the original letters. The applicant should provide a copy of the maintenance agreement to the planning board if it has not already been submitted. To have two of the owners associated with the common driveway committed to enter into the maintenance agreement. So essentially, that document does exist, and I provided that to Erica today.
Let's see your packet.
The deeds on the two existing lots would need to be written to include reference of the approved driveway maintenance agreement. And again, I assume that's been done, but we've reached out to Paul Giannetti, who was the attorney that did the original work, just to make sure that if that hasn't been done, that be done. General and drainage comments. The detail for the stone recharge trench notes that the swale should be built to direct flow into the trenches. These swales and their grading should be shown on a site plan. Grading for the swales was added to the site plans. The peak of the driveway at station 4+50 will create an awkward driving condition. That was already mentioned again, we already kind of talked about with those vertical curves. A vertical curve should be provided at the beginning of the roadway, where the 3.5% to 11% tangents for a smoother transition. And we talked about that. That's kind of here where we go from our leveling area up. We added a vertical curve to the profile. And lastly, as designed, the center line of the profile tangents change grade every 50 feet. We would recommend that the center line profile be smoothed out with longer tangent runs and vertical curves where the algebraic difference is greater than 2% between tangents to provide smoother transitions along the center line. And again, we updated the profile with vertical curves with less transition compared. So that kind of answers a lot of comments issued by Fred's letter, but certainly open up now to questions from the board.
Do you have outstanding questions or concerns?
No, just a clarification, a lot of these were, probably 80% of them were in the original review. Why there was never a revised plan at that point, and I'm not sure why. So as he said in the last part of that letter, there was a lot of repetition, repetitive comments, and so they were already explained or talked about, but they were never implemented. But everything now, as far as I can see, comes up to date, comes up to what we talked about back in 2005, and everything else.
Okay, good.
Could you just give a quick summary on the stormwater management, how it's being handled? I haven't reviewed it all that closely, I'm just curious how it's being
Basically,
stored.
what they have done is it's a series of infiltration trenches, for lack of a better word.
Is that what's highlighted in blue?
Yeah,
Okay.
those are detailed. I think on here where it's basically, these are the drain pipe trench detail.
All the way on the other side, closest to Eric on
The recharge trench, which is essentially, it's a 2x2, I believe, trench with a pipe in the middle of it just to add that open void space. And that's designed where you've got the stone to grade. So all that sheet flow and all the runoff that's directed to them will directly infiltrate, and there's some storage in there as well. As you get towards the front of the property, they've proposed swales. So as we said, the driveway's super elevated, so it kind of sheets everything in this direction, and this swale picks that up and takes it down to a small basin here. There's also a trench on this side, but really that's just picking up the sheet flow that's coming off that hill there, intercepting that, preventing it from coming onto the driveway, taking it down, and there's another depression down there.
And Brandon, on the left side, as you said, those recharge, every so often the swale dumps out into the recharge trenches that he mentioned a minute ago. So the whole swale doesn't go down to the bottom, it does eventually, but it also goes into recharge trenches to break up the flow.
It's kind of a decentralized approach to waste
Yeah, I like that.
Right,
stormwater
yeah.
instead of doing one big, huge, giant.
Cool.
And we didn't change that. We didn't reinvent that wheel.
Yep.
That was on the approved
It
plans.
was on
We
there
just-
before. Okay, okay.
We
Seemed
just
to
asked to make sure the grading showed it dropping into
Yeah.
those, but it wasn't, it was meant to be, but didn't show it from a grading standpoint.
And then the applicant, they have 2 entrances to their home?
Yeah, so the other thing we've added, just, and again for neighbors, is we've been working with the Caselkas at their proposed house. We've obviously done a septic design here, and yeah, they're looking at a crescent driveway here, basically to provide, mostly for guests, just access to the front part here, if they do entertaining and whatnot, but primarily the driveway is going to come up this way and access. This driveway gets a little steeper on this side, so they kind of left it, could even be seasonally, where this is
Okay.
kind of the main thread of the driveway, but they've got kind of this option as an escape to kind of bring that around.
I'm just curious, the whole thing will be paved, or they don't know yet?
Yes.
Okay, okay. 5-bed septic?
Actually, I shouldn't say that. This is,
If it's seasonal, maybe not.
they've got a landscape architect involved. I mean, they're coming here from the West Coast and they're
Yeah.
putting a lot of this. So they've actually looked at a couple different products as opposed to pavement. But
Okay.
one of them, I can't think of the name, it's not millings.
Chip
but it's
seal.
Chip seal,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a porous driveway.
Oh, cool.
My name's John Michael, I'm the general contractor representing the Caselkas.
Thanks.
Yeah, so. No, they're attuned to runoff issues, like if they're, in their own portion of the driveway, they're gonna have a lot of surface to deal with.
Sure, sure.
And so they're considering, cobblestones and maybe some pavers or perhaps chip seal, which is a semi-porous product,
Yep.
because then they don't have to deal with the runoff as well.
Do folks in the audience, butters, have any comments, questions?
Yeah, Bob Turby on 369 Long Hill. Yeah, so I have actually 2 questions. The first question is, what is the process to ensure that this driveway is built to plan in relationship to them getting either the occupancy permit or whatever? Is that this board makes a final decision, or what happens there?
How does that work, Eric? We're not holding bonds for a common driveway, right?
We will.
Oh, we will?
We will.
Okay.
So typically the way that it works, we initially hold the final lot until the common driveway is complete and as-built are submitted, everything gets reviewed by Hamway. In this instance, where there's only 1 lot, more than likely, if they don't get the common driveway done in time for when they want a building permit, they'll have to post a cash bond, which will ensure that the driveway gets complete.
As well as withholding the occupancy permit.
Right.
Okay, so,
Yes,
There's
exactly.
so the building permit would be issued eventually with this bond?
With a guarantee of a bond. So,
Okay.
yeah, so the new owners would have a lot of skin in the game.
Right.
They couldn't move in,
Right, okay.
and they would lose a ton of money.
Okay,
It's kind of a punitive bond. I'll let them explain the bond. It's not $50.
okay.
It's a lot.
It's usually sufficient to complete the work.
Yeah,
Right.
it's 100% or better of the full cost of the work has to be placed with the town.
We've dealt with this before.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll be biased and
This
say,
is
I
typical
think we
on
were
common driveway.
pretty lenient, but we let them move in. We would just, and we probably would here too, we would just trade the lot and the occupancy for cash. So we'd have the surety, but to say we would hold up an occupancy is not consistent with what we've done in the past.
Yes and no, it didn't work out so well on Century Mill,
Yes.
as we know. I think since we know who is gonna be moving in now, they sort of know what they're up against, they know
Yep.
that condition, I
Yep.
think it's a little more fair to
Yep.
hold them to that. Where in Century Mill, these owners are coming in, they have no idea.
Okay.
But that's my thought, I don't know.
And I mean, it'll also depend on what, if they're difficult people to work with, then we might hold them tighter than if they're working well with the abutters and, John is making good progress on it, we might but there will always be that bond there until the work is done.
Some sort of surety, yeah.
Yeah.
right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dave?
One second, I think you had 2 questions? Did you have?
Yeah, the
No, can I
second
answer
was.
the first question?
Okay,
Yeah.
You asked how it can be ensure that it's built. I take it I'm gonna be inspecting?
Yep.
So I'm out there inspecting the construction that's being done too.
Okay,
No, this is well before bond, well before occupancy,
okay,
so I'm out there while they're building it
okay.
as a representative of the town.
And that's not new, we did
Yeah,
that
we did that on all.
Right,
Pine Farm.
Yeah.
We'll do it on Main Street. I didn't mention it, it was one of my notes. The
No, but
hearing's
even
open.
on common driveways.
But yeah,
Same thing, the one next to Annie Moore, we did the same thing.
Yeah, 147.
that's right. You're right, yeah.
That kind of leads into my second question, which is basically almost the same thing, which is there was a reference in the previous time that this was going to go through the building of an as-built plan. Is there a new plan that's actually created off of what's actually built and then reviewed?
Yes.
And it comes to here?
It gets submitted to the town and
So
myself.
it's after it's completely built?
Correct.
Just to
Okay.
ensure that
That
it's,
it's built according to how it was designed. There might be some small
Sure.
modifications that would
Okay.
come to agreements in the field.
But it's reviewed, it's
But
adjudicated.
it's,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
it's pretty well controlled, I guess,
okay.
the whole thing.
Other thoughts, questions, concerns? I'm happy.
I did put in your packet a draft decision. I don't know if you want to go through that.
Where?
And then, it's above the,
Should be the last.
Something should with all these things
I
together,
know.
Oh, it's because I'm going up. That's what I brought, not what you printed for us.
the documents that we
Pass
I would love to, if you think it's kosher, close the hearing and then read this outside.
I don't think there's anything that
Is it controversial at all?
No,
Well,
not that I saw.
All right, I'll read it.
I'm just wondering, just in case you have a question for Brandon.
Yep.
So I assume you'll need to go through a shaded tree hearing? Scenic road?
Yeah, scenic road,
hearing?
yeah.
Okay.
Which is interesting, actually, now you say that, because there is an existing driveway there. But yeah, but obviously the trees will be removed from site distance.
And it's within the railroad.
I know, it is a little funny.
Okay. So condition number 3 will likely go away since the maintenance and drainage easement agreement has already been established.
Are these the hours you did for the last?
Yes, it's the same
It's our
language.
standard,
Yeah.
review, okay.
Only, I don't know how we, since this is a relatively unique situation, I don't know if we need anything in here for notifying abutters when the work is going to be done that may impact their accessibility of the driveway. You know, if you're out there grading the driveway, they can't, you know.
They'll definitely be notified, so.
Well, right, but to wake up in the morning and find the driveway blocked and they're trying to get to work is
It
kind
can't
of.
hurt to have that in.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the wording would be on it, but,
Just to give reasonable notice.
When you say butters, you mean the two existing?
the two existing houses, yeah. Again, if you're delivering equipment at 7 o'clock in the morning and they've got to get to work, it's kind of,
Just reasonable notice, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
I think 13 could be expanded to give these guys the ability to work outside of these designated hours with our condition. If we did that with CME, we would do it for the industry.
Well, that's Saturday at the approval of the board.
Does it?
Yeah, that's our standard language.
Okay, all right.
So number 12, just in terms of having Pam weigh into the engineering UV construction inspections, I'll probably add a sentence that says, you know, funds will be requested prior to the issuance of the building permit.
Yeah, we would say that. You know, I'm not doing something, it's just me. You guys will have to recognize my, you guys will all have my phone. I live in Baltimore. I just want
Make a motion to close the hearing?
Yes, but I have one question. This is more just my opinion. Special permit lapses 24 months. I know that shit's. They got it done in 24 months, or they got to stop? They got a permit allowing you to trim the truck.
They can ask for an extension, right?
Yeah.
They can ask for
Yeah.
extension.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make sure you guys, absolutely, I'll make sure.
The draft, with a few revisions.
Yeah, to close it first.
I haven't met you guys.
In terms of timing,
Yes.
John can answer more on that, but, you know, obviously, if occupancy and everything's gonna be held up on it. I mean, the goal and the idea is to start to break ground this fall. I mean,
Okay.
maybe we're gonna do this work.
I see no reason.
That's not true.
Do you wanna talk a little bit about schedule? Because I know you probably.
Broadly speaking, given this process tonight and what follows before this actually becomes an actionable permit, and then starting from square one at that time, we don't have time to complete this work 100% this fall before paving and final work becomes undoable. So there could be some work done this fall on the common driveway. It will not be brought to full completion probably till the warmer weather in the spring. However, the client is more than eager and interested in starting as the rest of the project as soon as possible. So we would be negotiating or discussing a bond situation so that the town's position is secure, but we're able to continue with drilling wells, getting permits, and starting on construction.
Construction of the house.
Yes, the house and the septic.
So this would need to, if the board's fine, I'd be fine with it. This need to be revised a little bit. This talks about building permit to be issued upon acceptance of the as-built plans of the road, so that'd be.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I was
We need
chatting
to
with some of the abutters, but, you know, as representatives of our clients who live very far away, you know, I had this little big picture speech prepared earlier tonight, but I think everybody's tuned in. You know, this driveway's already there.
Yeah.
We're making it a lot nicer
Yes.
at the end of the day. With the town's position secured, with some kind of bonding situation, and all the homework that's already been done here, I wanted to make the point that the new owners, or the Caselcas, are interested in short-term approach.
Great.
They're not sitting out there saying, oh, maybe next
Great.
July. You know, they would love to do whatever we could do to accommodate the board to see this move ahead.
Thank you.
So that's my speech from California.
Do we talk about bonding, surety in this?
We do, yes. Oops, I can find it. And condition number 6. The applicant shall not be issued a building permit until an as-built plan of the common
Okay, cool.
driveway.
Reasonable judgment, okay.
So that needs to be adjusted then?
No, it does not.
No, I
Or
think it's
until
good.
surety is posted.
Oh, okay. I got it. Orange. I'm fine with this.
Okay. Then I would
So
be
there's a
happy to hear
couple minor changes.
Yes.
I'll move that we close the hearing
Second.
on common driveway
For
for,
anybody who wants to.
this is 345, 369.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Well, we never know, that was just to close.
Let's close the hearing.
Okay. Motion.
Move that we issue the common driveway special permit as drafted with the changes that we've discussed.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'm interested to see what this house looks like at the end.
Me too. I I actually have just this,
Although,
the signature page of the permit, so if you guys could sign this tonight, then that would be helpful.
there's connections underground.
Yeah.
I know, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, they're Star Wars fans.
Sure if they always come, so.
There's 3 different pods, there's like a living pod, well, that's a garage, and then the living in the middle, and then bedrooms right on the other side. Tuck.
All right. Is it like, that's cool. Like a contemporary thing? What is it? Is it
No,
like-
it's kind of adventurous in the layout of the sections, but the look of it is, it has horizontal siding and
Oh, okay.
windows with grills.
I didn't know it was all
Yeah, no, it's not
cement or
gonna be
something.
completely. Yeah, it's not gonna be.
Bunker.
Maybe small.
All glass on the side. Still interesting to see it in there.
On that one?
I believe so.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we talk about something else for 6 minutes, or do you go ahead?
Are we heavy schedule? That's
Should we go take care of the Trinity Church parking lot?
Can we? If we,
And that's just
can,
business.
I don't see it, I don't see it.
And that's just business, it's not a
That's-
hearing,
that's
so.
great.
because it is a hearing, it gives, you know, people a chance to show up.
okay, except that my client was gonna show up.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, we don't have
Well,
to.
let me see if
We don't have to.
It's only 6 minutes, let's do the December report then.
Yeah.
Okay, good idea.
Yeah, they're not here, I think we've got.
That's fine,
Yeah,
that's fine.
that's fine.
Sorry about
It's just
that.
fine.
No, it's no big deal.
They'll probably show up right after you start talking.
Yeah, of course.
So we have to do this every year?
Yep,
So we just need a motion?
yep.
I will move that we appoint Michelle Tuck, Marshall McKee, David Pellet, Daniel Spicer, and Natalie Gabrielle to the Design Review Board.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The 5-person board?
Motion carries.
There is no real set number.
Okay.
Slightly early, Mr. Case, so we'll wait a couple of minutes if you don't.
All right, thank you.
So just an overall, before we get into the hearing, so is this what we were hearing at the last meeting? This location? Or is this completely new?
This is it.
The hearing that we're gonna be
Yeah,
opening, this is completely,
We did an A, this is the lot where we.
What
did
was
an
the weird
A&R
A&R
for
one?
Mr. Slade.
this is an A and R, and it's, we
Right.
didn't talk about it. The A and R is in your packet, so it's just to refresh your memory.
How do you find dry ground there? You're good.
I didn't find it.
Okay.
He sold it as an approved lot.
Got it.
Okay, so.
It's dry as you get back there?
Yeah, it's actually clear. You should take a walk down.
Okay.
It's actually a pretty nice lot.
Okay, so
We're doing an A&R
I've never
today?
walked back there. It's not an- I
No, I just.
I envision the wetlands kind
Oh.
of towards Hudson from there, but I've never really been back there.
It's kind of like an island.
Okay.
Or a peninsula.
Okay.
Okay, and you go back there, it rises a little bit. It's all sand and gravel.
Okay, all right.
And the amazing part is, you're 12 feet to groundwater. That's the amazing part.
Cool.
So,
Bob, did you sign in?
No, and you need to check it. Oh, I don't know how much it was, so.
Well, it's actually, the change I did is actually.
So I made a bunch of comments on top of the list.
Okay.
I was trying to look at it, so.
Well, I can summarize a lot.
Okay, well, we kind of talked about it. I like what you were doing, but I corrected a couple of things.
That's fine, we will talk. It's a tricky one.
You don't know who's gonna hate it, is
The director?
No, Brad Cody. What the? It's funny, he has to read these long bylaws. He freaks out.
Not everything can be done in a tweet. Not everything can be done in a tweet.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, President Trump? 140 characters?
It would make for an interesting town meeting if every article had to be a tweet.
A consecutive series of tweets that could get it done.
Good.
No.
Dot,
One
dot,
tweet.
dot, dot, dot.
Yeah, no dot, dot, dot.
Probably get more attendance. Let's go in 20 minutes.
Maybe that's bad.
So all we're hearing today is just the trees, right?
Correct, there's no stone wall.
Hearing about your trees. There's no tree work.
I want this in the house, so everybody's in place. I thought she was coming. So this is right on the Hudson line, where, oh, that's the gas line. Oh, Boy Scouts.
If you're
Oh,
on,
okay.
if you're on 85,
Yep, that's 85 right here, right?
to the left on the Century Mill, and it's all wooded.
Right there on the left, on the right.
Where Century Mill Estates did the big clearing, right before that, on the other side of the it's just woods.
Where is it? So this is Hudson Road, which is 85, right?
So you come in and
Yeah, and this is going what, south?
that's heading towards.
Oh, okay, that's why it's upside down. I was confused.
Yes, weird to look at.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is going north.
It's gonna be.
No, this is it, lot 1 and 2 right there.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's what we're looking at.
Then like this is it. Oh, right there, Road A. That's it.
Okay.
That's his road that has not been built yet.
Oh, that's the
clearing.
the blast.
So that road.
Yeah, I'm amazed that this
Well, I mean,
There is a, on your right side.
No.
Oh, okay, you like this?
When was this thing ever done?
He did it.
We did this?
Yeah, Mr. Slade came in a year ago, maybe not that long.
I don't know, I bought this recently.
Okay.
Okay, so, you know, inherited the,
Doesn't seem.
He's probably owed it for 265 years.
Yeah, 2015, yeah, that's right, yes, we did it.
All right, it's 9 o'clock and I'm reading my speech. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, MGL Chapter 87, Public Shade Tree Law, Section 3, Cutting of Public Shade Trees, Hearing Damages, and Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 15C, Scenic Road, and Section 250-24 of the Bolton zoning bylaws, Scenic Roads, Town of Bolton, Tree Warden, and the Planning Board will hold a joint public hearing regarding the application of Robert Pace regarding the proposed removal of a 24-inch diameter white oak required to construct a driveway for property located at 92 Century Mill Road, Lot 2, identified by Assessor's Map 3.D as Parcel 8, Lots 1 and 2, and the proposed removal of trees identified as 1 14-inch diameter white oak and 2 2-inch diameter red maples, required to construct a driveway for property located at 96 Century Mill Road, Lot 1, identified by Assessor's Map 3.D as Parcel 8, Lots 1 and 2. Public hearing will be held at Town Hall, 663 Main Street, Bolton, Mass. on Wednesday, September 13, 2017, at exactly 9:01.
This is different.
Chairman, I'd just like to highlight that the notice that you read and the actual addresses are different. That it's actually 75 and 91
It did say that.
Century Mill and not the
92 and
92 and
96.
96 that were.
Did you update this?
Read.
Thank you.
I did,
She
that
did,
must
yeah.
be an older
I'm reading an old
agenda.
one.
Then
Sorry.
there you go, that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
Mr. Page.
Hello. Well, you've already done my narrative, okay? We recently purchased these lots from Mr. Slade in order to, okay, apparently this was a very difficult lot to get approved. Trying to think of the fellow's name that did it. It starts with a G.
Oh, Goddard?
Yeah, okay. Mr. Goddard got it approved back whenever it says here. Designed the septic system, and to get through the Concom was the challenge. If you look at the map of the septic plan, you'll see that it's very, very narrow, okay, where you cut through here and on both lots. And in order to get into the driveway on lot 1, you need to, there's 2 trees, there's actually 3 trees, there's two small maples, and there's, I think, a 14-inch oak. And on lot 2, I don't know if you want to take them one at a time or if you want to take this all at once. There's a, and of course I think that the things, there's a large, I guess that's the one that's referred to as 24-inch maple or oak. I didn't remember, I can't tell my names on this. That really doesn't impact the driveway as much as it does site distance.
Okay.
This is lot 2.
You own both.
I do.
We subdivide.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to interrupt this hearing. I don't believe that it was noticed properly. I looked for 3 weeks to find these 2 lots, and it's only been resolved in the last couple of days which lots these are, and before we get too far within the hearing, I, as a private citizen, Martha Remington, at Assessor's Map 4D, Lot 17 in town, would like to protest the continuance of this hearing based upon how it's noticed. I feel that it should be noticed properly as 75 and whatever, rather than 92 and 96, which are, if they were lots, would be on the opposite side of Century Mill Road. Thank you.
It's not an unfair point, but I don't want to waste time either. I wonder if...
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, who is running these, developers or the planning board?
Martha, that's out of line.
I'm sorry, I don't believe it is. You people are in charge here, and our town
Can I
planner, who
finish,
does
please?
best.
Can I finish?
Possibly, but I don't think developers should be running the town's
Martha,
rules and regs.
can I finish?
You may.
Thank you. I'd like to use the developer's time and our time, which is valuable on both sides, to talk about this issue. And maybe, if the rest of the board agrees with me, continue the hearing and keep it open, properly posted, and allow people to come in who are abutters who might be affected or might have a concern or might not be abutters. But rather than just shut it down, it's probably best to talk about it. It is recorded. Keep it open and give folks a chance to come in. Whether it's through a public posting like we always do, or a public posting as well as a posting to abutters to go above and beyond. But just to turn us all away is probably a waste of time. That's my feeling.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's up to the board whether or not you want to repost. You certainly can continue it if you so desire. I did reach out to town council today regarding the matter. There was an error on the driveway application, which then got transcribed onto the legal notices. So the street numbers were, they were in error. Everything else, I just want to point out on the legal notices, was correct. The applicant, the street name, the map and parcel, the date, time, location of the hearing. In talking with town council, Brian basically said, The error is minor, it happens often, and it's really up to the developer whether or not he sees fit to cancel the hearing and.
Why? Because he's at risk if
He's at
folks
risk if
have
someone
concerns?
comes forward and appeals it, correct. So,
And there's an appeal process that allows them to do that.
correct.
I think that makes sense.
I'm willing to take that risk.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to do that, though, keep the hearing open and give folks a chance to come in. It might be a short hearing, it might only delay you a little bit of time, but it's
Well-
fair to abutters who might miss this.
So what I can do is probably for this Friday or next Friday's paper, it has to be, next Friday's paper, I can re-advertise with the correct street address numbers and say that it's a continuation and leave it at that. So I can certainly do that. It's up to
Can I
the
just
board.
ask Mark a question? Can I ask you a question? So did you know when it was first posted that the address was wrong, or you were looking? You didn't ask
I
Erica?
started looking for it when I received the hearing notices in the Historical Commission cubby before our September 6th meeting. And I mentioned to Erica, for 3.5 weeks I've been looking for these parcels. And I knew because they were even numbered, they should be on the south side of the street. I think the point is, I think that town council, they consider this a minor error. I would consider a spelling error or a typographical error to be minor. But the actual street numbers, I was looking for these for the
You couldn't
weeks.
find it, yeah.
And I thought, geez, there's development on the other side. What's going on? So, thank you.
True.
Patty, Chairman? On September 6th, this is what this looked like. If somebody missed that,
I saw it.
that's...
But it's on the
that's-
opposite side of the street.
Excuse me.
In fairness, I drove by there this morning looking for the numbers that were posted and said, okay, well, that doesn't look like it should be right over there. So I'm not sure why the conservation has an issue.
There's some confusion.
There's
There's
some houses on the other side here, it looks like the
That's
trees
fine.
are noticed, but I think continuing the hearing, I think is probably the
Yeah,
best.
give
I mean,
folks-
if nothing else, I don't want to waste Mark's time in having to come in another night I know how much he enjoys it.
It brings up a bunch of issues.
Martha brought this to my attention yesterday. I called Erica this morning. When you post a tree under Mass General Law, there's 6 things that you have to cover.
Yep.
And the location of the tree is one of them. And if the description, I talked to somebody else that is another tree ward in another town, I felt okay with it because it's listed as Lot 1 and Lot 2. If we hadn't listed Lot 1, Lot 2, and we gave just the numbers, I wouldn't be for it at all. I wouldn't let it go. I think continuing it is a good idea because there's a fair amount of confusion. It wasn't just Martha. I talked with somebody else on the road.
Okay.
So I think that's probably a wise choice.
We have another issue. We can't get in to clear the trees out. The conservation wants the trees out of there.
Yep.
So,
Say it again?
Conservation wants the trees out of there. She actually sent me an email today.
She wants them out so that
Right,
they can
okay,
go
so the
over
trees
there.
are all cut, okay? This one I can get in, okay, there's no issue. But the one that I guess is the most sensitive one, okay, I don't know if you can see the
You're
trees.
saying they want them cut so they can get them?
They are cut.
They are cut, they want them removed, they want the slash removed.
I see, I see.
Okay,
We can talk to them, right?
get it out of there.
Just to tell them, can you hold off for 2 weeks?
Conservation?
Yeah.
I can talk to her about that.
Yeah. But this is a smart thing to do. There's obviously some confusion, there's some concern by folks who finally did find out where it is, and so there's obviously going to be potentially some level of concern from folks who didn't even know. So we'll post it, but let's continue. Use your time.
Just to follow up on that then. So there's no way that you can remove those trees from
No.
the area that you cleared?
This one I can, but they won't come down for one load of trees or
Right,
2
right,
loads of trees. They've got to come down, okay, for all of it. No, I can't get in this lot because of this tree. And
Which one are we talking about, 91?
Lot 1.
Lot 1, that tree there, okay, is right in the middle of the driveway. If you see this tree hangs over, you can't get a trailer in there, or a truck, or a well truck. I can't get my building permit because I can't drill my well. Okay, I've got machinery mobilized in there that can snake through there, obviously, where a truck can't.
Now, the trees in question, are we talking about the trees that were taken down and are sitting on
Right.
the erosion control line
Right,
and
yes.
sort of spilling
Right.
into the wetland?
Well, they're not spilling, but they're
For the
on the
buffer
erosion
area.
control line, yeah.
Is there a way for you to at least just get them away from that line to
That's a
appease
couple of
Rebecca?
days, well, it's certainly a day's worth of work with the, okay, with an excavator.
Okay, because I would say that's a significant issue. I mean, there's significant wetlands on this property. I don't want to put conservation in a position where they feel they have to be compromised because, you know, the planning board.
And again, I guess I would appeal that, you know, this is at my own risk, okay? Okay, I'm here in public, I'm saying that. Somebody wants to bring, okay, an action against me, please do, okay? This is expensive to have, there's nowhere else that the driveway can go, okay? The likelihood of somebody refusing this, I think, is slim, okay, to get a tree down, and I'd ask to go ahead. Okay, it just costs a lot of money, okay, for equipment to sit around and...
Yeah, I feel for you, but it wasn't posted correctly and not everybody knows about it. We have to continue it.
Okay, and I know it's an uphill battle. Can I ask for a vote on that?
Among the board?
Yeah.
Do folks disagree with me? It's fine if you do.
No, I'm okay. I prefer to continue it given the mistakes in the notice.
That's fine.
To continue it?
Yeah.
You guys disagree?
I think if town council has said it's okay. I mean, Martha, do you have a issue about the trees? I mean, you went out and looked at them?
Well, one of them, the largest white oak that's near the power lines, I thought it was like lot 2, but maybe it's lot 1.
It is lot 2.
It could very easily be, the driveway could very easily be moved over toward the west a little bit. The thing that gets me is, I don't think it's town council's place when everyone knows that something has to be accurately noticed as far as hearings. That's a Commonwealth law. I almost called the Attorney General. And I know it happened because perhaps the information given wasn't right. And it's detailed. I mean, this stuff has to be right. If this had been a historical commission posting, we would have had to repost it and wait those 3 weeks before the 14 and 17 day limits were before the hearing. So I just think that it's important. I mean, the fact the numbers were wrong is fine. It wasn't even the correct side of the street because of the even odd numbering. These were even numbers, 92 and 96, and they actually are what? 75 and who knows?
91.
So the parcels were noticed, okay? So if somebody was that concerned, they could go on the line, they could come in, they could look at this. Let me propose a compromise, okay? Why don't you act on lot 1, which she doesn't have, okay, a problem with?
Lot 1 was addressed correctly?
No,
No.
it was 75 instead of 76, or vice versa, okay? And this way here, okay, with this one tree, okay, I can get in there, I can get the logs out of there, okay, and everything moves on. And nobody's seen the very big issue with that one. And if
The
nobody...
issue is not whether Martha's concerned with the tree. The issue is whether folks have concerns who are abutters or other people in town who just haven't seen it. It stinks, but I mean, you gotta do that.
So...
Were all the
Everyone
abutters
acting
properly
on one-
noticed?
They're not required to be
It's not a
noticed.
butter thing,
I
it's
do
a
it as a
town
courtesy. So I do it within 300 feet, I notify them. And just to sort of follow up, legal notices, the purpose of them is to allow people an opportunity to come to the public meeting and provide comment. And I just want to reiterate that the time and place of the hearing was properly noticed. It was just the street number.
To Martha's point, though, if somebody wants to go research
I
it,
completely,
they can't
I
find it.
have no problem with
She's
continuing.
been here forever, and she couldn't find it.
No, and I understand that, and I'm not.
But it sounds like she
I'm not
did find
arguing
it.
that we shouldn't continue it, I'm just.
Only
stating
today I
did
found
find
That's
it.
the purpose of
Only
a
today.
public notice.
And after
Were the
our
trees
conversation, Marks I found it after our conversation, I described where it was.
The trees were marked, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
The only markings there, Mr. Chairman, were Conservation Commission DEP markings, you know, the 6 digits with a dash in between.
That's not true.
That is true.
No, you can.
That is absolutely true.
No, there's a notice on the tree.
There's notices on the
And-
The
tree.
notices
But
were not
still, if you were
there.
looking for the,
The
when I
no-
drove by this morning, they were.
Yes,
And that was
this
at
morning they were
9
there,
o'clock or something.
but I didn't see them Monday, I didn't see them last week, I didn't see them the previous week. And the tree is on lot 1 that I think should be saved.
No,
Which
no,
just-
that's on lot 2.
Is it lot 2?
Yes.
Okay,
And
sorry.
what I'm asking for is lot 1, that we can move on that so that we can continue the process.
And we're saying it was on, that notice was on the lot that he's asking for?
That's right here.
Yeah, it says,
They're all right there. We get to- that's right.
Yeah, then,
Mark.
for me, the compromise makes sense.
Mark.
You do that one lot. I mean, if that's what does it for me. If you're talking about Century Mill Road, and you're driving down and you
Yeah.
see that big sign that says tree warden.
But it
Well,
was
that was
not
on.
there until this week, Mr. Chairman.
No, I posted those trees almost 2 weeks ago.
White pages,
Yeah.
well, I guess I was tunnel visioned into looking at the even side of the road. But I did notice the development that Mr. Pace is doing. But I saw no signs.
This is exactly the way this has looked for weeks. Okay, I can tell you that because Rebecca asked me to go out and flag the trees, which I did with pink ribbon, okay? And she asked me, there was a buffer zone here, so to make sure that nobody cut that, okay, in the way in, I flagged that myself weeks ago, okay? And right after our meeting, which was weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So there's been ribbons, there's been a DEP posting, there's been the white, tree warden, okay, postings.
Those tree warden postings,
Those
piece
are
of
on.
paper that says tree, you put those on personally?
Yes.
How long ago?
Almost 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, then
Because Mass General Law requires that the tree is posted for 1 week, 7 days prior to the hearing, on the tree. 2 weeks in the paper, 2 weeks on a public, in 2 public places, but only 1 week on the tree.
has town hall got any inquiries, clarification inquiries besides?
No, I have not, no. Actually, I don't even know Martha if you contacted me directly. I think she contacted other firms.
I contacted the town clerk's office. The fire chief is the person who assigns the street addresses for construction. And he had to ask, he wrote a note and asked if you could clarify that. It's only recently that construction sites have to have the actual street address that will ultimately be for that property. And
So sorry.
Martha, what's the
So
bigger,
there should have been a,
what's the bigger picture here? I mean, just
the bigger
delaying it just to
picture
delay
is,
it? I
if
mean, what's your
historical
concerns?
commission notices have to be correct,
Yeah.
planning board notices have to be correct, selectmen notices have to be correct, EDC
But, I
notices.
mean, we can use common sense too here. I mean, how's it gonna, what's the outcome?
But it wasn't even the right side of the road, that's what I'm
If
saying, it wasn't
the
just a
trees were
number.
signed.
If the trees are signed,
were
I've got a little
I
sympathy.
swear, I did that for 3.5 weeks, I've been looking for this, and I saw no tree warden white sheets on those trees. Now, some of them
Now I
are
feel
very
like I'm
small
in trouble.
diameter trees.
I mean,
There should have been a
Can we do the
92 or a
compromise?
96 or something on it,
if
but
we,
it's fine to continue.
if we do
the
that
hearing.
compromise with lot one,
And
Pardon
keep the
me?
hearing, do lot 1 now, keep the hearing open and have folks come in to
Yes.
have an opportunity. I
At
mean,
least let
that,
it know that it's different
That makes
numbers.
conservation happy, that makes me
huh?
happy.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
Let's-
that's minimum.
let's talk about-
I mean, my other question on this is why wasn't this done in a more timely fashion? And you've got a lot of construction, you've got a lot of clearing done, and all that stuff is done. Why are we just not getting the scenic road hearing? Such that a 2-week delay would be catastrophic.
First,
I mean, the lots are cleared, I mean, the areas are cleared. So
because I have to clean it up, okay? I have to have access, I'm
But
mobilized.
you've known where the driveway was gonna go, and you knew what trees were gonna have to come down months ago, right?
No, I didn't
A
know.
week ago?
No.
3 weeks ago?
No, respectfully, I came down with a building permit to get signed off, and Erica said, hey, you need to have a scenic road hearing. Okay, all right, so I didn't know, sir. Okay, I just didn't know. Okay, so then we met out there, okay, because there was some confusion. Okay, so this has been going on for a month.
Those were posted, excuse me, August 18th and August 25th in the paper, those public notices. And we got them in our cubby in
Okay,
August.
so, well,
Do you have an issue with the ones on lot 1? Or just mainly the one on lot 2?
No, it's mainly the bigger one on lot 2 that could be very easily shifted just a bit.
And let's talk
Can I make a
about-
motion?
okay,
I think we can just talk about lot one. Okay.
I appreciate that, thank you very much, sir. Oh, okay. I want to take a tree down. I want to take a tree down to get in my driveway. Okay, so.
So this is lot 1, this picture?
So,
Lot 1 has just one tree?
This is two.
no, that's
Three.
true.
Okay.
Three. There were 3 trees. I took it from different angles. I just want to make sure I give you the right ones. This is an abate and switch. Okay. This is looking directly at it. So you can see, okay, the lot's clear. This is the driveway.
Where's the street?
Right here.
So this is,
So this is Hudson? This is 85? And this is,
yeah.
Yes,
Got it.
right, exactly.
okay.
That's the 24-inch oak.
That's the, no, that's the 14-inch.
14 inch.
Okay. And then there's 2 little trees. I don't want to get these mixed up.
Real stupid
Right here.
question, Erica. The only
Right
reason
here.
we're here is because they're in the right way.
Yeah, right. And there's 2 right there. Okay. If you see those are 2-inch. Okay. So it's that one in the middle of the driveway that needs to come down.
That's the 14-inch oak.
Are they all healthy?
And where's the 2 red maples?
They're
They're just to the left of it.
Just so-
Closer to the
Oh, right
95.
Okay.
That's, I don't know if there's another, if there's, this may be a better one right here.
But you're taking them down for sight lines, you're not taking them down because
No.
they're in the way of the driveway.
No, this isn't the way of the driveway.
It is.
The other
Got
one,
it.
the other one's in the way of a sight line.
But,
Okay, that's lot 2.
Okay.
which is the one Mark, which is the one Mark is concerned
Okay.
about.
Okay.
And the truth of the matter is, you know, I mean, if it wasn't a sight line, it's a pain in the neck to take down. Well, it's not like it has any value, I'd rather leave it up. Okay, I backed in there tonight to see if,
I kind of want to see that then.
Yeah.
If I go see it, how am I going to know it? They're not numbered, are they?
I'm gonna show you. Yeah.
If you want Mark,
I don't know.
What I mean is, how am I going to decipher it from one of the other ones?
Well, no,
It's got the posting on it, it's a yellow, it's got a pink tag around it and the posting.
this is,
I can picture it now, okay.
It's
So-
it's the only 2 clear lots on the,
as you come out, as you come out here, okay, and the only other thing that really needs to go is that tree limb is dead,
Okay.
you can see that.
Okay.
Okay, but that's,
So that is the lot 2, talk about it in
Right.
2 weeks, sight line, you don't want to take it down. Got it.
okay, you know, I mean, I think I need to take it down for safety.
Right.
Okay, but, you know, if you told me no,
Who opines on sight lines, just Fred or Mark? Just, that's a Fred item, generally speaking.
well, not for, not
I'm
for,
not sure what you mean.
Who will opine on measuring sight lines and saying this is an issue versus no, this is not a danger? Is that just the
It's,
applicant?
well, in
First
terms
thing?
of the scenic road, it would be like the police department weighing in. It wouldn't be fresh.
Got it. Yeah, no.
who identified the tree?
The police department?
The tree?
Yeah.
That was
That
at
was
the
during our
visit.
site, during our site visit.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any laws on single lot sight lines?
No, that's the thing. Our
Yeah.
line of sight bylaw relates to like commercial
Subdivisions,
properties.
So
It's not subdivisions.
it's not even-
So I don't think we're forcing you for sight, you know?
no, you're not forcing me to do anything, okay? I
You're
think,
just saying for
You're
safety.
going to take it down for safety.
right,
Yeah.
that's,
Got it.
but if you told me no, well, I'm gonna say, well, they won't let me take it down, so, you know, God forbid somebody gets hurt on it.
Right.
There's a curve up here, I mean,
Yeah.
okay, there are people that go fast on that road.
Yep.
Okay, I don't advise it, but,
Yeah.
you know, there's horses, there's all kinds of
My
stuff.
attitude is always, if the sight lines
Yeah.
aren't really
Yeah.
an issue, why are we taking a tree down?
This is really an issue, and I think if you went out there.
Okay. I won't fight it. I don't know the tree.
I would
can't picture it.
suggest back in the driveway, so that you can drive out,
Yeah.
because that's what you'll be doing. And as you get
And as you're looking
out
towards
here,
Hudson to 85, it's an
Right.
issue. Okay.
I think you would see that.
Okay, all right.
Okay, pretty clear. So, okay.
So on lot 1,
Yep.
are there any issues with allowing the 3 trees to be taken? Okay, I move that we
Should we
approve.
hear from Mark Case?
Yeah.
Yeah, you came all the way out to that.
Like I said, if it wasn't on the posting where it says lot 1, lot 2, I wouldn't go along with it at all. Because it did mention in the posting that it was lot 1, lot 2, I'm a little more forgiving. I don't necessarily feel the urgency that the developer's feeling because he put the cart in front of the horse and started clearing the lot before he could gain access to the lot. The slash and logs overspilling into the buffer zone and that sort of thing. So he's put himself in that position, and that we shouldn't be thinking of that in making this decision to approve the removal of those trees.
I'm being selfish. I'm thinking of my own time. I'm not thinking of your time, frankly.
And I'm not even gonna come to the next meeting, okay? You guys just tell me what you decide.
That's your decision.
Okay, because I think you'll either say yes or no, and either way I can live with that,
Okay,
okay?
okay, okay.
Well, is that fair?
Yeah, it's your decision. Okay.
Just one more point, Mr. Chairman. After you can see what happened at the
I'm gonna
Bennettston
give you these.
Century Mill Estates area, where that is clear cut for probably 400 to 500 feet. If people want a house in the woods, they should realize their driveway may be more difficult to pull out. You know, people go fast. Sight lines are up to the driver. You've got to be careful. And I don't think that Century Mill Road needs to have a lot more significant trees cut.
Especially right there. I don't disagree.
Oh, it's terrible. It's changed the whole character of that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think it looks awful. Thoughts?
How do we,
Continue the hearing for
do we have to motion to continue and make a motion to
Do
approve
you
the lot 1?
need any more information from Bob regarding the other lot before you continue it, since he's not gonna be here?
No, I don't think so. I want to go see it, but I don't think I need more
Okay,
info,
all right.
no. Can I steal those photos? Thank you, sir. So what, motion?
That's lot one, though. You want lot two, I gave them to her. Oh, there's 2 copies of each, so I could give you one.
Okay.
Can we just?
Yes, because I advertised them as separate hearings, so we can close the one hearing for the one lot.
So close the
And
hearing.
then continue the other one. That's fine. I combined it just for the purpose of the agenda, but
Okay, well then I will move that we close the hearing for lot 1.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I'll move that we continue the hearing for lot 2.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Now we have to.
Motion carries.
Now we're on the motion to approve the removal of the 3 trees on lot 1. Right? Okay, nice. Move that we approve the 3 trees be removed for lot 1.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks.
Thank you, and thank you for being so reasonable as usual. Can I just give you the key? One of the copies, and I'll give you one copy.
oh, no, what? For the hearing, for the continuance of the hearing, we need to say the
okay.
date. I apologize.
Okay.
So number 27, it should be separate.
And here it's separate.
Okay.
The same thing, so you have them too.
Did you do it spec or 2 pre-sale?
No, spec.
Cool. Good enough market?
We'll see.
That's the
So you have to.
That's why they call it speculation.
Yeah, let's strike that motion
Thank you, guys.
and.
Yeah, so I need to change the motion for lot 2. Just slightly. So we continue hearing for lot 2 until September 27th at 7:45.
Second.
One more time, 8?
She said 7:45, so.
It's, we're just reviewing the decision.
That's right, yeah, yep, cool.
So 7:45?
Yeah. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So what about this draft that doesn't apply anymore?
You'll sign at the next.
Kept you folks waiting, apologies. This is the Trinity Church, Waterquatic Hill Road, parking lot improvements. Good evening.
Good evening, folks. Rick Roy, Ducharme Dillis. I'm here with Dan Williams, who's on the House Committee at the Trinity Church, and also Clyde Wheeler, who's a founding member of Trinity Church. So he's also a longtime resident of Bolton, so he joins as well. So I'll try to be brief. I know you guys have more on your agenda tonight. So the Trinity Church, in short, would like to repave their lower parking lot. And it's the parking lot that's adjacent to Memorial Field. I brought this aerial image. I thought it might help. So Waterquatic Hill Road is here. This is the intersection of Route 117. The church building is right in here. This is the public safety building. And this is Memorial Field here. Florida Solar School is right here, coming out back. Emerson School right here. And this is the lower lot, and they would like to repave that portion of the lot. It's a mix right now of, well, it's severely degraded. It's paved, but it's broken pavement. It's difficult to, it's getting increasingly more difficult to keep it from getting chewed up in the wintertime and things. So the time has come to put some effort into it. So I have another sheet I'll flip to, but just before I do, the dashed line is roughly where the existing pavement is, and we'd like to slightly expand it to accommodate a slight increase in the number of parking spaces, and I'll show you a little bit more on that, to the solid lines there. We've done some survey, and to make sure we get the grading correct, and prior to paving. So we're roughly, the spot they have down there just really isn't, the width doesn't make sense for the number of parking spaces you can get, so it's just really inefficient. So you end up having people parking right here and then along this back edge and having a real wide section in between. It's just kind of wasted. So we'd like to expand this slightly, about 18 feet, a little less than a parking width, towards this direction, so that we can achieve double load in there in the back and just pick up, kind of get quite a bit of bang for the buck there, pick up some 20 additional spaces. And then same thing over here, for not a lot of extra effort, we could grab 9 extra spaces over there, and then just restriping the parking lot after it's paved will allow us to achieve some more efficiency and get some better, more defined traffic circulation through there. So we're going to
spots total?
Yeah, so we're going to be going from roughly about 54. That's the closest we can tell that it's really kind of disheveled, to about 80. So and just by doing those small 2 additions. So we're here. We weren't really sure. Your bylaws says that commercial uses require site plan approval. We're not really changing the use at all here. It's not really a new use. It's really not even a commercial use, but it's, okay, we're not residential either. So we had a meeting with Erica, who bounced it off Don Lowe, and we said, we better roll through the process just to make sure we kind of have our I's dotted and T's crossed. So the bulk of this is really just a resurfacing project, where we're adding some extra pavement. We've gone ahead and put in some added stormwater on this side, so that, and we're going to be regrading the parking lot so that the part that goes to this stormwater swale right in here will be slightly less than what goes there now. So this will want to be capacity issues there, and then the part of the pavement right over on this side that will be pitched this way will now have a new stormwater management basin built there. We're also going to be doing some improvements. They have a perpetual water problem up in those 2 corners, so we're going to be improving these pipes at the same time. they're kind of small diameter, 4-inch pipes, I think, and they just get clogged over time. So we're gonna expand the size to keep them from clogging. We have a concurrent filing with Concom, so we'll be going through that process. We've already applied for a notice of intent. I think we're gonna be opening that next week. So there's an order of conditions that's required for that. And so the process here is, I think, is approval from the selectmen after your sort of endorsement or recommendation.
Blessing or recommendation.
Right, so
Okay.
we're here tonight for that. I know Erica's kind enough to draft a draft for you to review, and we've taken a look at that. We don't have any significant problems with that, so I'm happy to answer your questions.
On number 5, what's the emergency access road that's in the back there?
Yeah, so there's an emergency access road right here that connects to the
school.
Yeah.
And that's what's gated, right?
The gate is there. There's a gate there, but there's no lock on it.
Is the gate there to prevent overflow parking from the school parking in your lot?
I know. Stop people from cutting through.
I'm not sure. Where's the gate spot? On the Florence? On the...
It stops people from cutting
It's on the
through.
driveway.
Yeah, because they're leaving school.
Most right here?
Move this big heavy pipe around.
Yeah.
It's pivoted, but
So it comes...
Yeah, you prefer not your parking lot to be overflow parking for the school, right?
or cut through.
It's cut through, like when the buses are leaving, everyone's backed up.
We do have a lot of visitors from the town. Saturday morning, I went over to do a little bit of work, and there were 20 cars there that were attending a baseball game in Memorial Field.
Yeah.
Last week, a couple of weeks ago, I was there about 11 o'clock at night, and there were 14 cars with guys playing basketball.
Yeah.
So we do take care of the town in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And there's a cut through that goes right about
Right
there.
Yeah.
We preserving that, we're not changing that. We're not gonna, as Dan said. The church has been good neighbors, and like to continue to be good neighbors.
Yeah.
So,
Can you just go ahead?
Sure, sorry, Mark.
No, it's okay. So on the, let me get what you plan for this.
Yeah.
On the bottom of the, yeah, right in there.
Yeah.
So the water that's coming off of the pavement there,
Yeah.
just going into the grass there, should there be a swale kind of connecting?
No,
to
actually,
the-
so we didn't have room to get the swale through there, so we're gonna put a bituminous berm right there,
Okay,
so that it'll run down here and then get into the swale.
okay.
Yeah, so that's a good
Okay.
question, yeah.
Are you trying to at least ask one Danielle question? Or?
No, I just, I mean, I can look at plans, I know it's.
That works. Yeah, he's done this a lot, yeah.
Erica, do you have any concerns about this?
My comments are in your packet. I have good comments, right?
The seats? Which one?
It's
Yeah.
towards the back of your packet.
Yeah, got it.
So as part of site plan review, planning board provides advice to board of selectmen.
So yeah, you talked about lighting using cutoff, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so those are new lighting fixtures that are not there today? Correct. Yeah.
Roll those.
We're actually planning on putting those right in the middle. right there.
Okay.
And I'm showing a kind of a modern style pole like you'd see at, say the new bank building, shielded. They may do something more in line with what's there now, which is more of a ornamental wooden post, older style lantern fixture, which would be less, dramatic, I think, than what I'm proposing. But I kind of wanted to show you what a worst case scenario would be.
But the more ornamental, would that still light down, or would that still?
Yeah, we might not be able to use the same exact fixture, but we'd still be, committed to compliance with the bylaw, which I think is dark sky.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy with it.
No
I think
issues.
it's where it's coming to.
Okay, motion.
I will move that we, what are we going to do? Approve the, or issue site plan approval, or recommend site plan approval to the selectmen for the paving of the Trinity Church parking area.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Need a hand?
Oh, I got it.
This your briefcase?
Yeah.
I was hoping I did not have a chance to read your
Well, I'll summarize it,
changes,
because
so
there's
Let's
a lot of
just, let's
ink.
work through the whole thing because I have comments on your comments.
Let me summarize what I did first, because it's very needed.
Yeah, the overall gist of,
The overall gist was,
yeah.
two things. One, we had talked a lot about in prior meetings, so this is the cottage overlay, proposed cottage overlay bylaw. We had talked about an affordability requirement. And I kind of looked at this as a 40B. And with my experience with 40Bs, I said, well, 25% is probably a decent number to pay because it's consistent with what the state regulation is. The reality is, if what we're trying to do is propose a piece of town zoning that gives folks an option to work with us here at the town instead of going to the state level, and work with us in creating a little bit of a cluster development to achieve some of our goals, then it would only make sense to give folks some sort of an incentive from an affordability standpoint to choose the path of Town of Bolton over the path of Commonwealth of Mass, 40B. So if the state is talking about 25% needing to fit the affordability definition, we should be a number less than that. And I'm proposing 10. I think 10 probably makes sense. There is some magic to the number 10. Our inclusionary zoning bylaw for traditional phosphid, so a phosphid that doesn't benefit from the increased density that we're trying to foster here. Got to give some carrots in order to get what we want out of it. If our inclusionary zoning calls for 1 unit per 8, 1 divided by 8 is 12.5. This is 10. This is a hair under that. So this gives a slight incentive over a phosphid. This is, in theory, better than a phosphid. So that
for sure.
That was part one of what I changed here. The second thing has a lot of ripple effects, or a lot of red ink, I should say, on my version of the red line. And what that does is it puts much more of a focus, this is kind of where we started, but it puts more of a focus on, or as much of a focus, I should say, on seniors housing as it did previously on non-age restricted, but otherwise smaller dwellings. The logic here is, what is our goal? Our goal is diversity in housing, to get a different use here, and my biggest goal is to alleviate the stifling tax burden. If we're going to do that, the biggest problem with this whole equation is our town is very attractive towards families with children who populate the school system. And while that's great, it's not terribly diverse. It seems to be, we have a concentration in my mind, and that can be a little subjective, but it feels like it's a concentration. And 2/3 of our budget are going towards school system, so it can have multiplicative effects. If the perfect scenario is seniors, allowing seniors to stay in place, or attracting new seniors to our town, we want to create a bylaw that's going to foster an environment for a developer to come in and create some seniors housing. So, if what we're talking about in terms of attracting developers to make use of this proposed bylaw is an increased density provision, that what I've structured here, and I'm not married to the specific numbers, it's open discussion, but what I've proposed effectively here is if you do a cottage, you get more density than you would under a traditional phosphid, a little bit more. But if it is age restricted, as well as meeting the other characteristics of maximum size of the house, maximum bedroom count, stuff like that. If it is also age restricted, which in my mind is what we want the most, then your density is that much more.
Yeah.
That's all I did.
I definitely agree with that.
It's a lot of ink, but it's those two things.
I wanted to go over 55 all along, so.
And I think we got some pushback, or really not pushback, some feedback. We asked for feedback from the developer community, and some developers had said to us, it's tough to limit us to a seniors only project.
Right.
So in my revisions, I'm very careful to say, that's an option. Here's our bylaw, and you need to build houses no larger than X, bedroom count, on average, or however we define it, majority 1 and 2 beds, a limit to 3 beds. You're building some smaller houses, you're getting the benefit of density, it is going to proliferate our goal of housing diversity, wonderful. But if it's also seniors restricted, you're getting what you want. You're getting folks who, not just a first-time home buyer, who might come in and say, Bolton's really expensive, I'm gonna buy a small house, have a couple of kids, and just pack them in a smaller area. We just hurt ourselves. We got a smaller house built, less tax revenue, same 2 kids. We didn't do anything. I think some will use it, and we will achieve a goal of diversity in the housing stock by attracting those, doing things to attract those first-time homebuyers. But I think by attracting the 55, 60, 65-year-old, in my imagination and from some of the projects I've financed in my real life, in a town like this, there are going to be some affluent couples, aged couples who are coming in and, in theory, living in a $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 house instead of just a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 house. They're going to pay a great tax rate. They're going to necessarily not have children in our school system. So the tweaks I did don't focus on one or the other. They incorporate both. It's both cottage and seniors.
But I think, so you said 2x if it's not age restricted.
And I'm not married to those numbers, but I said 2x and
I think the number needs to be a big enough difference where developers are inclined to go with the senior.
Totally agree.
Like, yeah. Which I think is maybe what you do with the 2x, 6x.
Yep. But if it's 3.8, 3.6, what, I mean, you gotta have a little bit of a bump
I think you gotta have a big bump.
Between the two.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think you gotta have a little bit of a bump between traditional phosphid and a cottage that is not age restricted. It's
Right.
gotta be worth the developer's while. Maybe 2's not the right number, maybe it's 3. I think we had talked about 3 before.
I think it's, I like the...
But it's gotta be very beneficial, because the reality is a developer will look at its pro forma, its sellout analysis, and it will say, if I'm restricted to only selling to 55 plus, my market, my universe is so much smaller. But my top line revenue used to be 1x under a phosphid, it is now gigantically larger. Instead of 18, it's 18 times 6.
So it's worth the extra few years to fill it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just have a question. If you were a senior,
Yes?
would you like to be surrounded by only seniors when you move? I don't,
I think some will, I think some will not.
but the need for the housing for seniors is, actually need for Bolton is to have houses that people can age in. They can come in, the houses don't have to be large. They can come in, they maybe raise a couple of kids, but then afterwards they can stay. They still pay all the taxes, but you don't have the kids anymore. And I know the seniors, the people my age that I've talked to, they are not in favor of leaving their houses they have here, like on Main Street, and moving to a place in Bolton where there are only seniors.
I think you're right. I think you bring up a very good point. But I think what happens, I think if we encourage seniors developments, there are lots of folks who are attracted to them. There's one that's being put up by Toll Brothers in Stowe right now that's getting a very big following. It's very attractive. Many will be attracted to that. Others will want to age in place, in their house, like you
And
said.
there's no place in Bolton where you can do that.
They can't age in place in their own house today because their tax bill is getting incredibly large.
And this
is an indirect way to alleviate over time that tax burden. Because the problem that we have today is, it seems as though every new housing development that goes up is catering to folks with kids in the school system.
That's right, them who leave when kids
That's
are
exactly
out of
right.
school.
That's exactly, what do you say, Mike?
The graduation sign goes up, and the for sale sign goes up.
But it's true, and that's the goal, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, our goal is to get a tax revenue without paying a school bill, you know? And you keep saying senior, but we're talking over 55.
It's called seniors housing, but yes, it's 50, it would be age restricted at 55.
I think 55 isn't necessarily senior, so I don't really like your wording there, but.
I'm 47, and you can still call it senior. 7 more years.
Still calls it, that Toll Brothers was our job, the Toll Brothers development is an active adult community.
Yes.
That doesn't include everybody else. So non-active ones.
So we don't necessarily have to digest all my red lines, but it's consistent, that's the only change I made. That's what you will see ripple through. 2X, phosphorus, 1X. 2X if you adopt the cottage overlay with its rules. The same rules we've always been talking about effectively. I'm assuming, although we can definitely discuss it, 6X for a seniors. And then there's one other thing I'll mention.
Well, we should go through it, because I have some questions in general.
I will shut up after this one comment.
No, you won't.
I'll take a breath. You know what, let's go through it.
David, what's the affordability factor in the senior development? Are you going to
What's the
apply
calculation?
Yeah, what's the calculation for
Is it still
affordable?
10%?
It would be 10% instead of the 25 that we were talking about.
No,
That's my
but,
proposal.
so the senior, you had 10% affordable for
Oh.
the overlay. If you go senior, is the 10% still on the senior as
No.
well?
The affordability is across what I'm recommending. Nothing's set in stone, it's gotta be approved by the town anyhow. What I'm recommending
Right.
is, affordability is a requirement, which is what we said before. But instead of affordability is a requirement and affordability must be defined as 20% of the units are deemed affordable, it's now 10%.
Which is less than inclusionary.
Which is slightly less than inclusionary. Inclusionary on a phosphid works at 1 in 8, it's 12.5%. What I'm proposing for seniors is, as a carve-out, as a caveat, if this project is restricted to seniors, period, 100% seniors, then you'll get a very significant density kicker. So instead of being, the numbers I'm throwing out, instead of being 2X phosphid, yours is 18, 18 becomes 36.
Right.
I would propose 6X.
6X dwellings.
6X, so simple math, say it's 20, it goes up to 120. Now, so 12 of those would have to be affordable, and none of those would have to be affordable?
10% would have to be
10%
affordable.
still on that, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the question.
But the idea is that
No.
the 6 is explosive as compared to phosphorus. And if it's not, tell me. But when I look at it, okay.
But also what you have to balance is, the building units. So say you still have 18 building units, but there's 6 dwellings in each one. I mean, you have to balance it out financially how it works for you guys.
Correct. Is that how you do condo projects and apartment complexes, is the same way?
We don't even have.
We are going to address apartment. That's not. It will implode if we put that into this.
Yeah.
We're taking.
See in 5 years, I get you.
Oh, God.
Maybe 2.
But that's
we'll
how
see.
you would
We'll see
do
how it
condo
goes.
projects. Or
I would. That's a very good point. I would have no problem applying this to either single-family traditional detached or a condominium association. I shouldn't call it detached or attached, but
Right.
single-family versus a condo, I don't see a distinction.
And
For rent versus for sale, yes.
what
that's a
about
different-
limiting the number of bedrooms?
We had some language in there that said 1, 2s, or 3s, but the 3s can only be X.
I think that if you go over 2, you're going to screw yourself.
If you go
over 2
but
bedrooms
if it's
per.
okay.
Well, I think what he's...
Screw yourself, septic
I'll
wise.
disagree a little bit with you, because I think what you're saying is you gotta create a little diversity
Yeah.
for the developer, but I think if you allowed up to 3
Yeah,
everywhere, you're all done.
yeah, you're screwed.
But if you
What are you
have,
saying?
if you have 10%, basically what you're saying
We
is
said it's 20% of units.
sort of anti-developer.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, no, this is protect the town conversation.
Yeah.
Saying if you, kind of what your point is, if you make all 3 bedroom and up, you're gonna end up, exactly what you said earlier, you're gonna end up with a bunch
No,
of
I
people.
It's
moving in
1,
with
2s,
2
and limit the
We
percentage.
currently
of
said
Give you a little bit,
10% could be
because you
3 bedroom.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, or
That's what we
not
said.
get it.
We said 10% could be.
But frankly, if we wanted to overcomplicate it, if you take the seniors option,
Two
I don't
only.
care how big it is.
Can you do a mix?
I mean, I kind
Two
of
only.
do, but.
Well, I mean,
From a tax
it
basis,
doesn't make
I
any
want-
sense unless there's communal living in that unit.
Yeah.
Could you?
You know,
Right,
why would you need
Could just
more
make
than
it-
a grandkid?
I think we were just trying to make it a little flexible for the developers.
Well, here's a flexible, additional flexible, can you do a mix within one project?
Oh, yeah, of what, ones, twos, and threes?
Seniors and
Seniors and non-seniors.
I would say no. I would say it's seniors or not.
Yeah, I think so.
I think you gotta have to. Do you know any that are mixed?
No, because
I've never
then if you
seen
say, well,
Yes, yeah.
50%.
Yes, there are some.
Well, because it's kind of leading exactly to what she's
Yeah.
looking for, where if you had 50% senior, which you would have, say the 120 number if we did all, but we only do 60,
Yeah.
then in the other number, you can only do 20.
So then, you know,
So you have now 80 units.
I'm mindful of not overcomplicating.
I get that too, because we talk,
Yes.
you don't want to make it so complicated that people don't vote for it.
Yeah.
right.
So
Yes, that's.
the only thing is, that would kind of be a
Yeah, no.
nice mix.
Well, the other thing,
I know.
the other thing I'm thinking about that I've heard feedback from, and you could probably speak more to this, Jeff and JJ, but age-restricted developments that have an affordable housing requirement, you have a hard time finding people in that demographic that can fit in, and that can meet the qualifications for those income levels. Because they just have assets. So if you had a mixed development like that, you might be able to.
I'd almost be inclined, also too, I'd almost be inclined, because the town, you know, would want over 55 financially, to just get rid of the affordable, you know, if it's over 55, 100%. Because, I mean, we're getting the benefit of straight up tax money with no.
Toll Brothers, for example, had a hard time finding.
Did they really?
Oh, yeah.
In
They
Stowe,
still have
did they?
trouble.
Oh, no,
here.
over here in
Here
Bolton,
at
one
the
Bolton.
Regency.
Well, like you said, I mean, you're looking for the people who can afford
I know,
Yeah.
$500,000. So I would
But
say.
we're also trying to spin this in
But
some
you know what
sense.
happened too, is that the people didn't want to be next to an affordable.
Right.
Diversify
We had a
the
lot of
income
trouble with
levels
that.
too.
Well, no, but if you're not doing the senior, then fine, we'll do the affordable.
I know, that
But I
might
think
be
if we're
good.
doing senior, we're getting exactly what we
I know,
want with the
I know.
senior, so just get rid of the affordable.
I agree.
Stowe
School kids.
has no affordable?
No, they do.
No,
Still
they
has
do.
affordable.
They do.
But they're having trouble filling it.
No,
No, you said
I'm talking
Bolton.
about Bolton.
Oh.
Bolton's
Bolton had a
still,
terrible time.
Is Stowe filling the affordables, or is it too early to see?
it's too early to say, they also paid, they bought some of them out too.
Yeah.
So they're not building all of them in the development. They
About the necessity to have them.
There's a provision in that, in Stowe's regulations that will allow you to do a payment in lieu of.
I mean, if we can get enough.
Excuse me. With all respect, yeah.
I felt that. Right.
He said a donation.
But no, they have a provision, so they bought a few of those out, so they don't have as many in the development as you would otherwise have.
Okay,
But,
okay, okay,
But yeah, so I would be game for getting rid of that if it's over 55.
okay.
So I'm just trying to digest these edits, because today.
Let's go through it, because, let's go through his comments, and then I don't know how much time we have, but.
Just a couple more hours.
Yeah, I'm drawing a line in the sand at 11.
Yes.
Well, so.
You're gonna be here by
Real quick.
yourself on the level.
The question was, how many acres minimum, so we said 10, 10 acres or more.
Do we know 10 acres is gonna work? That's why I threw
You
in
think it
10
should
or
be-
15. I mean, we haven't, I don't even know how I would go about calculating if that.
We
is
can
a-
work us out, like,
Can
septic
can we make it
Yeah.
work?
Granted,
That's his problem.
That's just
So-
granted.
Well, you're definitely gonna have a septic limitation.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but
Well,
you
But
can
why do I
almost-
care?
Yeah,
Why
I
do
don't care
want
about
to?
that.
I don't want to limit.
Well, you don't wanna,
We don't want to put something in here that's
Doesn't
under,
fit.
that's
Feasible.
not, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 10 acres and up.
you're right, it
If 10
doesn't
to
mean.
14 doesn't work, well, I'm not the roadblock.
Right.
Science is the roadblock.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we were kind of saying, that we'll put out these numbers, but this.
But I also think the residents are gonna wanna know where this potentially could go. Like, I think if we're saying it's 10 acres or more, they're thinking, oh god, I have this lot next to me, it's
Yes.
10 acres.
But that's
We
all
wanna
I
be
care, that's
truthful.
all I care about.
But.
I don't care about whether it works for the septic
But,
system.
no, that's fine, but if 120 doesn't work on 10 acres, so then your numbers just don't work.
Well, it wouldn't be
Well,
120.
No, but that's fine. Say it was,
The highest phosphorus you can get with a 10-acre lot is 10,
okay.
theoretically, so the
So
highest
that'd
could
be
be a
60.
60.
Yeah.
So if 60,
Phosphorus.
well, hear me
Yeah.
give this whole point. So if 60
That would be even less
doesn't,
than
if
10.
60 doesn't fit septic-wise
Yeah,
on 10 acres,
yeah,
if it's only, you can only do 40,
yeah.
well, we gotta get this thing sold through the town, so why make it a lot more? Sell it at 40, it's an easier sell.
No, but
That's my other
so
point.
10 acres would be 5 lots max.
so
So it would be 30.
Yeah, 30.
Again, doesn't matter, if 20 can only fit on 10 acres because of septic, maybe you can fit there, I don't know. But I would just wanna make sure.
I understand, I hear
How
your
many
logic,
bedrooms-
I like your logic, I would need help with that.
How many
But that's why I
bedrooms
said-
can you get septic wise in a 10 acre lot, I guess is the question.
Yeah, so
That's
four
four
times,
bedrooms per acre.
40,
4 times what?
40 bedrooms, roughly.
So our number's less than
10
that.
acres.
Oh, that's, no, so that'd be like
Bedrooms.
20 units.
Yeah,
That'd be like 20 units.
22 bedroom
I
unit.
mean, that's basic if you did some treatment. you can get more.
Unless they're senior, in which case you get,
Right.
110,
If they're
110
senior,
gallons.
150 gallons, but they restricted then to 2-bedroom units.
right, yeah.
Well, so we get rid of the 3-bedroom.
I think senior should be 2-bedroom, I don't,
Yeah.
you don't see any.
We can get rid of the
3-bedroom.
3-bedroom, it just gets
You
confusing.
don't see it.
But that
Okay.
provision sort of already, I guess to the point, that provision already exists sort of outside of your board. That's
Right.
sort of a, so it's sort of a built-in protection anyway, but I think to
But to
Jeff's
his point, why
that's a
fight for
good point,
numbers
why
you're
fight
never
for
gonna use,
numbers?
because you're gonna lose.
Right,
I would need help with the math. I
Yes.
can't
So-
do that.
no, that's
But
what I
hear your
did.
logic.
I think we just do a couple calculations and
Yeah,
just
Right, but still, on 10
Yeah.
acres, it'd be 5 units, so it's really like 4x is what works for the septic.
4x, to me, that sort of makes sense
Yeah.
from, he knows much better than I do, but
What does 4X mean, please?
4x, so
Four
it's
times, 4 times.
4 times, so if
4
you could
times
get,
phosphorus.
yeah, so if you can get one house on 1 acre, they're allowing you to have 4 houses, 4 dwellings on 1 acre,
Okay.
which would be times
Provided,
2.
provided it's a senior's project.
Right.
That's the idea.
And actually, so the campground,
Age restricted.
the campground is exactly that, it's 4x. It's 60 units on 15 acres.
And it's really 4X against traditional zoning.
Yes.
I mean, because phosphorus is limited to traditional zoning
Yeah.
anyway, so you don't really get any more, even though you have those reductions.
Just condense it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So you just say it's traditional.
Yep.
We gotta sell this thing. I'm Jeff Walker.
So in number 2, number of buildings permitted, and we said maximum number of buildings allowed should be limited to, so if we say it's 1 phosphorus, or 1 house per acre, we were saying 1 building per acre. You said remove it.
Going to stay in.
This.
Because I'm going to move on.
Or you said I would keep this. Oh.
Nothing that makes
But
sense.
the question is, do
I
we
think I can.
only want to allow 1? So if you can have 1 phosphorus house on an acre, and this thing is saying, well, you can only have then 1 building with our number of dwellings, but what if we wanted to break those buildings up to say 2 and 2 versus 1?
Well, we probably should get rid of it. And
Yeah.
give them the flexibility.
Give them the
to do
flexibility.
Detached or attached.
Exactly. But by keeping this number 2 in here, you take out the possibility of the detached, like
Correct.
4 cottages versus
So we should
1.
get rid of it.
Yeah. So we should get rid of that, and then what else do I have a
That's
comment
4
for?
points.
Um,
Yeah.
Oh, and you said, Dave, you said no building should contain more than 6 dwelling units, and you wanted to remove it, but I think we should have a max number of dwellings per unit, because if it gets so big, it just looks ugly, DRB wise.
But
Architectural?
if
Architecturally.
if our number is 4X,
Yeah.
then naturally, it's not going to be more than 4.
Four,
Is
yeah.
4 too big? I
Yeah.
don't think so.
True. So
Maybe
maybe
we
just,
were talking
so
about
maybe you
6 or
change that
8.
6 to 4, but you're saying you don't need this because it's now 12.
I got rid of this only because I had this, so it says it differently.
The density shows 6 per acre. Okay.
That's the only reason,
Yeah.
I just thought it was duplicate.
Yeah.
David, why are you defining that in advance?
Defining what?
The size of the building, the size of the,
The number
if it's
of
a condo
dwellings?
complex.
The number of dwellings per building?
Per building?
Mhm.
I don't
Just-
think I would.
Yeah,
Well, I guess we could leave it up to the DRB, I guess.
because it's gonna have to go through approvals anyway.
Right.
I don't think I would. I think I would just define the density.
Yeah.
So if
I
you
think-
get-
Number of dwellings per,
Because you'll confuse them if
Unit.
you start throwing, you'll confuse the
Yep.
right, make it
End
less
user.
complicated.
But I think we wanted to avoid the,
We wanted to avoid a long row if we're talking about 8. But if we're only talking about four, it's not an issue.
Yeah, 4 is fine, so you can get rid of it.
Let him detach it, let him attach it, doesn't matter.
Yeah, so we keep that number 2 in there, and then that's all solved. What are the concepts? If we want, what are they?
I had no issues with Michelle's comments either. I thought they were all common sense.
Oh, so my other comment was just about the affordable, but now we're saying 0% affordable for senior and 10%.
We're thinking about it. I don't disagree with you.
What else did I say?
It's doing what
on
we want.
rental.
It's really emphasizing.
You said don't allow rental, but I think you should allow owners to rent out. And I know that in Ridgefield, where I own a property, there's like a certain percentage of them could be rental or something like that.
That's because it's a condo, though.
Right.
That's a regulation in.
But what I'm saying, should the owner be able to rent out their unit?
I think it's prohibitive if you say no, Dave. Because people will buy it, maybe they'll move somewhere for a job and they want to come back to Bolton. If you're
Right.
saying you can't rent it.
Yeah, that's why I think you should.
You can rent houses now?
Yeah, you can rent
No.
the house out.
I wasn't saying we should
No rental
prohibit
properties,
rentals.
but don't limit the
I'm
ability
saying
of the
we
homeowner.
shouldn't write this bylaw to cater towards a for-rent project.
Oh, absolutely.
No,
I agree with that.
It's its own animal.
By you crossing it out, it seems
Where did
like
I cross it out? Because I'm not married to that.
lease or rent. You said affordable housing.
That was not my cross out. That was Michelle.
Oh, Michelle's.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we should allow rent.
Not for the purpose of building, but the
Right,
right of the
correct.
person.
The owner should have the, like you
Not a
said,
rental
move
property.
away, like they have a job for a few years. and
Just like you can a regular house.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever, man.
They do that in
but go back
condos,
up
Mark,
there. I don't
and they
think
have to
we
be approved by the
mentioned that.
board.
I
You
don't
know,
think
you
we
have
want
to take
promote
your,
that it can be rented.
And it's every iteration.
they have to review
I
it.
wouldn't call
Yeah,
it.
I'm just.
I
So
told
then-
them-
well, then
I
just-
said the whole thing.
then just leave it out.
These
Leave it out.
10 units
Take
and
these
rent them out, how is that?
What we're talking about.
How do you-
I'm agreeing with
It has to be an
prohibit that.
owner-occupied unit
It's not
that you
different than
rent.
what I have, but-
Okay, good.
That's really what it is. It gives you the right to rent it.
So the other question
So
is.
rentals are only available to owner-occupied
Yeah.
units.
So we said that there has to be, so in number 9, you said project maintenance. Every cottage, there shall be an organization of the owners. Are these roads ever gonna become public roads, or are they always a private kind of road?
You go either way. I mean, I would prefer to see it private, but
Because we allow subdivisions to go public, why wouldn't we allow this to go public?
Right.
well, a lot of times if they're going to be creating like condo developments, they typically are private.
Homeowners Association kind of.
I was just thinking subdivision wise, like, I mean, what do you guys think of that?
I mean, it's better
Condo
for
fee versus the ability to go public.
public is
Of course you
better,
prefer that.
yeah.
Affordability,
I mean, I guess it's dependent on the plan, I guess. I mean, are they gonna have a clubhouse, and is it gonna be a condo fee?
See, I don't think your density, you're looking at clubhouses. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just not big enough to have a clubhouse.
Yeah. So is there a condo fee in Regency?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
And they're getting.
And that's a
higher.
private road?
That's a private road.
It's a private road because you can't, there's no right-of-way created with it on that development because there's no lots.
Can't
So,
go around it.
So you
It's
could,
on a master plan.
you wouldn't be able to, you know,
No, this is 40B.
not really, anything that the town could really take as a street.
The other question I had was on open space. In this, we were saying 25%, but I said, should we keep it the same as Foxford, which is 33%? But we're allowing open space to be well and septic and everything too, so do you care 25, 33?
I think that should be fine. I mean, I would have to map it out once to see,
Yeah.
and just sort of, again, sort of with the whole septic idea as well. It's just
Yeah.
like, okay, let's map it
Yeah.
out. If it works, it works.
I was just asking about the amount of open space. We're saying 25 in here, but are we saying, you know, keep it equal with Foxford, which is 33, but.
33 has to be open,
And you see,
Well,
33%
you can put the
coverage.
well, you can put a well in it.
Open space.
yeah,
That should be
the well
fine.
and septic and drainage can be
Can go in open
part of
space.
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's a number we can,
I would think that works.
Probably, yeah.
what else? I think that was it for my comments. Michelle had a bunch. So I think we just, the main numbers are the dwellings per acre, you know, versus, well, we say Foxford just because you're going down to 1 per acre, so it's, you know.
Well, again, you got a sort of little thing, as he mentioned, phosphorus and
Yeah.
traditional is the same.
It's
So
the same
technically, you really,
And the number per acre is like an
so if you
overall
have
number.
4X, you're actually 4 units on 2 acres.
Yeah,
Yeah.
4 units, right.
No,
But,
4 on 1.
4 and 1.
yeah,
Phosphor allows 1 to 1.
One to
I'm
one.
saying 4.
No,
No, but the
phosphorus has
number of units is based on.
So if I have a 20
The number of
acre-
units is
if
based
I have
on
a 20
traditional.
20 acre site, and I can get 10 lots on it at 2 acres,
Yeah.
it works out perfect. I can still do 20 units, like 10 units on the 20, I can still do 10 units on only 10 acres, the other 10 acres are open. So if I go 4X, I got 40 units, still got 20 acres.
so we don't
So
wanna,
it's 4 units on 2, or are you saying you gotta follow the phosphorus rule where you still have 10 acres of open space?
well, so I guess I was confused because we're saying in phosphor, there's 1 building per acre, but we wanna be able to have these potentially condensed, so we're not really thinking of how many on each individual acre, just overall number of acres, and this is how many buildings you get, and then put it where you put it.
So that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
4X actually
So-
gets you 4
so my-
units on 2 acres.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, in
But
those
it,
other-
because, net, because of the open space.
But it doesn't have to be
Yes.
spread out like that, it could be
Yes.
more condensed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, but I just, what you're
But
dealing with.
my comment was thinking more like on each acre there'll be 4, but it could be more on 1 acre and less on other acres.
It's
Yeah.
cleaner to do it by acre, because I mean, you
Exactly.
could look at a 20-acre piece and
Right.
say, okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
get 10 homes there.
Yeah.
But if you don't have enough frontage,
Yeah.
and now you gotta create roads and everything, you
Yeah, so just do it by
a lot of that
overall
area, you're not gonna
acre.
end
Yeah.
up with 10.
Just
Which
the
is not
overall
how we
number.
have it.
Which is, 2, yeah, so just think in Regency, they have 15 acres, so you put 60 dwellings wherever you want to put it there. That's what we want to say, right? We don't, but we have, like Michelle put in kind of minimum distance between units and stuff like that, DRB wise, just for aesthetics.
That's what other towns do.
Yeah,
They let you put the units wherever, within reason.
within
They say
reason.
you need to
Yeah.
have certain unit spacing, certain distance off the street,
Yeah.
off the road.
Yeah, so they give keep outs, but you know, put them where you want with the keep outs.
But would you guys suggest gross basis, you have a number of acres,
Yeah.
you may put this many units on it in terms of density, or would you rather say you are allowed to do X vis-à-vis a phosphid, you now can follow the phosphid rules, but get
I think the
X
first,
times multiplier?
the first.
You can come out at the same number. it's
No,
just
but,
how do you-
no, but then you're dictating where they put the units, whereas if the first one, they can put them wherever they want, as long as they
Well,
keep.
which is not how we have it written now.
Yeah,
We need to
exactly.
change- I understand it now.
No, well, Michelle did add things,
Did she? Okay.
Michelle added things to talk about distance between buildings and stuff like that. But that's what we should be thinking. So you can have, if it's 15 acres, you could have 60 dwellings wherever you want in there, as long as there's these keep outs between buildings or whatever kept.
So what you gotta do then is make sure that you're not locking, so it makes a difference if you're envisioning lots, like a subdivision being created with lots, versus allowing a condo. Because, you know,
I think,
you have to give, because right now, you have to give the provision to allow the condo, because
right.
you know, you can't just put them, you know.
Yeah,
inside,
no, yeah, right. So we're using the phosphorus to create the number, but then after that, put them where you're gonna put them as long as it follows.
Yeah, so lot line's not needed.
Yeah, lot line's not needed once you put them where you wanna put them.
So it'll always be a
Zero
condo.
lot line.
That's an important,
Basically, yeah.
It has to be.
that'd be an important provision, because you have to.
As long as, yeah, as long as they're
Bylaw
not on top, we'll give you some minimum
There'd be
spacing
setbacks.
between buildings and minimum spacing between buildings, maximum dwellings per building, maybe we do
Yeah,
that,
you
say
might want
4.
to set back to the perimeter of the
Yeah.
development.
Exactly.
You know, that kind of.
Exactly, so that makes it much more flexible for the developer.
Erica, you should take a stab at drafting that, because I understand the concept, I don't know how I'd word that.
Well, it changes, right, because we'll use our
That would make it
development as
more-
an example.
That would make it more palatable, right?
We were able to show, it definitely make it more palatable, but
Yeah.
I'm also, again, I'm a strange developer, I'm thinking from your side right now, okay? So, we have 50 acres,
Yep,
but we could show traditionally, we could only get 18 lots in there.
yep.
So we got 18 now, and phosphorus, we're gonna do 18 on
So
1
then you get
acre.
your 4X.
So I get 4X, so I get, whatever, say it's 20, I get 80. 72, thank you.
Yeah.
So I got 72. Now, if you did it per acre, I got 50 acres. If you allow me 4 per acre, I get 200.
No, we're creating the number by the phosphorus, 72.
Okay, so you're creating a number by.
We're creating the number by phosphorus 72, but now we're saying, as long as you follow these guidelines, you could put those 72 wherever you want. You don't have to put.
That's fine, but it's not
4 in
per
each.
acre, we were
Right,
talking
no.
4 per acre.
We're just using that number to create the number.
I just want to make sure.
And then it's not like you have to put your 4 dwellings in each 1 acre lot.
Agreed.
You can put, we're saying, once you get your 72 number.
Put it wherever
now-
you want.
Now you put it wherever you want, as long as you follow these spacing guidelines
And you
and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to have a septic to support that. I mean, you're talking.
Well, yeah, that's
You're
another
talking
number,
sewage
right.
treatment plant when you get there, right?
Well, exactly, that's just,
66.
well, what was, you guys know the magic number?
66.
So, I mean, that.
Well,
ends up-
66
age restricted.
Yeah.
66 on an over 55.
Yeah, and, but for like 72 units, it might not make sense to have a sewage treatment plant anyway. It's not like you'd have to be much higher, you know, to make it work.
Yeah, you don't, yeah, it's, you go from.
So you'd end up
66
just
to
going
100,
66.
Whatever, yeah. You probably stop at
65.
66.
Yeah.
60, yes.
I mean, so do you understand what we're saying?
I was
I'm
just
not totally
wondering how large the homes would be, not the number of rooms.
We said
but
2,400.
That's a good point.
We said
2,400?
max.
Max.
That is huge.
Well, we would toy between 2,000 and 2,400, but it would have to work for them.
Would somebody who is a senior,
55.
But not necessarily would they build them to that.
It's not what.
Because
I
you
mean,
look at
just-
Eagle Ridge,
yeah, right.
they're all 2,000, 2,200, 2,400.
oh, I
It's-
would be thinking 1,000 would be enough.
Well,
Sod
yeah, but
Farm was 2,650.
Yeah, I mean, they don't build.
you gotta make it, the developer figure out what he can build to sell.
Guys, we talked about 2,000 and 24. Do you have a thought about the difference
24.
between those two? Is 2,000 too restrictive?
I think so.
Okay. Is 24 too restrictive?
2-bedroom. is
People
senior,
like
no.
space.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
have basements, they can use a basement.
But Eileen, you would do
That's,
1 or 2
that's what they did at Eagle Ridge. Most of them are 2,000 or 2,100. Then they all finish the basement. So then you're looking at 3,000 if you
Right.
count a basement.
With
So
a
they do
walkout.
have plenty of space.
Well, how does
And they were all set up as 2 bedrooms too.
Bolton, does Bolton have a gross floor area definition? They don't really have a provision in the bylaw for
Say it
it.
again?
I think so. Gross
A gross floor area definition.
I don't know what that means.
do basements count?
The basements count, you don't have regulations.
No, aren't there rules like if you got a window, if you got
It's
an
a
exit?
walkout or something.
Appraisers just count first floor, second
Yeah,
floor.
but
everything.
what my point is, like, if you go to a town like Lexington,
Yeah.
they have a gross floor area cap.
And they
okay?
enforce it.
And they enforce it. You don't have that in town as a baseline zoning. So if you want to enforce that here, you have to define what you're considering the 2,400. Well, you would.
Yeah, I
Well,
wouldn't want to do
I
it.
mean, the other thing we could do would be restrict the height of the basement. So you can use it for storage, but it doesn't meet.
They do that in
building
Lexington.
code.
But that's what I'm saying, you'd need
Yeah.
definitions about that because it'd be,
Yeah,
people would
but you
be,
wouldn't want to do that.
Oh, you wouldn't want to
I wouldn't want,
restrict
I'm
it.
saying I don't want to do
Restrict
that.
you
I
don't want to
go down
restrict it,
that
so you just don't want to have the 2,400
Correct.
provision.
Well, no.
So you end up with 3,600 square
Oh, I
foot,
see what you're
2-bedroom
saying.
house.
So you have to tell them what's 2,400. Is it 2,400 on the living
Two
spaces,
levels.
not including the basement, or is it
But-
including the basement?
We could just specify that.
You just have to
If we
define
want-
it,
if
that's
we
what I'm
want
saying.
to.
You would want, yeah, you'd just say buildable first,
If
second
it's a
floor.
split though, I think you would include the basement. Like,
You could
thinking
have-
like a split townhouse, they include the.
They half of the basement.
Yeah. If it's a
But
split,
appraisal-
a
split.
split
Yeah.
includes the basement, whereas a true basement is.
Because you're going down a
But
couple stairs.
I disagree.
Yeah.
If you look at public records, a lot of times, if it's a split, they're only counting in the public records the first floor. They don't count the basement. She said? Did she fall?
No.
I think her bag hit the
Yeah,
camera.
okay. So we were saying though,
1,000 square foot.
use that phosphor number to create, so like just his example exactly, 18 units is what he can get. So the dwellings is 72.
It's based on traditional zoning.
Right, it's based on traditional
You don't
zoning.
confuse when we keep saying.
So sorry,
Yeah.
he's allowed 18 units currently. So the number in the senior would be 72 dwellings.
Right.
And then how they're laid out is defined by some, like, you know, it doesn't have to be 4 units in this acre, 4
Well, it's
units in
not
this.
defined,
Right.
it's just.
Right,
you know,
exactly.
the 6X
DRB.
and that's it.
So-
And then
so
there's the offsets. with
that's
the
Right,
numbers.
so you can take your 72 units, then fit them however you want to fit them, as long as, I
And
think
that's what we kind of originally
Right.
talked about at the last meeting.
Michelle talked about 20 feet per building or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
I think we pull that out as regulations.
You
and we
never
can-
see buildings that close.
tweak over time, not putting it
Especially
into
from
the
a single
bylaw.
I
project.
think it needs to be in there.
You could talk about like encouraging, not having a
I think it needs to be in the
massive
bylaw.
amount of
I
single
think we
building.
need it.
It needs to be in the bylaw.
The DRB will look at that.
No, I think it needs to be in there.
Because you can't put 72 doesn't mean you should.
I think
It's philosophy, I mean,
it has to be in there.
Well, if you're just talking two-bedroom,
Yeah.
yeah.
you're all of a sudden, you're limiting size. Nobody's gonna build a 4,000 square foot two-bedroom house. Just not gonna.
But Michelle already has it in there in her comments. I think
Well, I
they're good.
had put it in there, and then I
Yeah.
just questioned whether it should be 20 feet or 10 feet, and she
Yeah.
confirmed that it should be 20.
Yeah. Per building, yeah, I think that was
Between
good.
the buildings.
That's all you need, yeah.
Yeah.
And then probably some step back from, which we already have
The
from
property lines.
property lines.
Yeah. So I just have one question,
Yeah.
Dave. So what's the purpose of the 2X? Allowing for,
To give, I want to give as many options as possible.
because at the end of the day, to me, we're not really creating any diversity in housing. It's
Oh, yeah,
what
we are.
it's-
Starter
It's what
homes.
we already have.
Yes,
But there are starter homes in Bolton.
Where?
smaller.
Show them to-
Smaller homes, smaller
There
homes,
are.
there are.
Built in the 60s,
Yes.
not today.
I wouldn't be against getting rid of that altogether and just having over 55. That's what I always wanted, so.
Why try and limit it?
And at the
Why
end
What
of
do
the
you guys
day,
think?
give an option?
I'm not limiting it, but I just think at the end of the day, these are gonna be marketed at what, 450, 500, 550? To me, that's not a starter home.
It is in this town.
In this town,
It might be sad, but it is in this town.
I mean, I would buy into that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I bought a house for some $500,000 and it was hard.
When's the last new house you sold in Bolton at under 500,000?
none.
Have you ever in your
They're
life?
way too hard to do that. And
But your
even
home
the-
is not a starter home, that's my point though.
In Bolton it is.
It's
the only way I can
totally
get in.
is.
What's the square footage of your home?
2,300.
It's a starter
It's a
house.
peasant in a
It's a
teeny
peasant.
Yeah.
It's true though. It's sad that that's what we're trying to attack here.
Yeah. I mean, that's a start on.
But on one of these projects, would the majority of people be starter homes?
If we're restricting bedroom counts and restricting the size of the property and making them clustered together, I think so.
But you know what? We're thinking like Bolton people.
I think that's what it needs.
City people would be perfectly happy moving
Right.
with their kids into those. You know,
Yes.
that's like a mansion.
But city kids are not moving on to Bolton.
What is?
They're stopping at Native.
Huh?
They're stopping at Native.
They need amenities.
Yeah.
I
true,
think
true.
the reason Ada is upset, I did meet with Lisa Dion, who's our outreach coordinator for the seniors, and I met with Sheila, who's the director for Council on Aging, and this bylaw is not gonna address our current seniors, the 20%.
Well, that's why I was saying. That's why I originally
This is
said.
really about your baby boomers, your
Right,
people are gonna
exactly.
eventually be downsizing.
That
We
was
have
my-
the finances to do that, because when we're talking about our current seniors,
Yeah.
they're really looking for affordable housing like Bolton Country Manor.
Right.
They're not looking for that.
That's not what this
And
does.
That's
probably
not
why-
this.
That's not what this does.
No, I know, I'm just. I
This
just
alleviates
wanna-
the tax burden over time
Yeah.
and indirectly.
And that's
such
what-
that
that's
they
why I
can,
wanted to
over
take-
time afford to live.
Well, that's the
It's-
difference.
That's why I
it's a
said take out
baby step,
senior.
but-
You have to take out senior because
Yeah.
senior is 75. It's
I
not
just think
55.
it's a little bit
It's leading, it's
yeah,
age
it's
restricted.
misleading.
Just take out the senior thing and just call it cottage overlay because it's not senior housing. It's 50-year-old people.
But if
whose
you
kids are
do,
gone.
Well, it's age restricted.
if you do
It's age
age
restricted,
restricted,
yeah.
then you get a bonus. You don't have to take it out, you have it separate
Give it bonus.
aside.
He's saying take out the word seniors because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
offensive.
Well,
Well, they call it active adults.
Yeah.
But what she's upset because she's thinking
Swing
sorry.
community.
Yeah.
Eric, we've had this problem constantly, because when I did the senior housing, Bolton Manor. And we were trying to come up with another place where we could do something a little more affordable, and it just didn't go. We couldn't get enough
So on top of
impetus
this,
to do this.
that's what we were talking about having an apartment type bylaw, you know, which would more answer her concerns where you can have, say, a 1,000 square
Yes.
foot unit.
Seniors
I wish
are
we
looking
could
for
do
more
that.
rentals.
Yeah.
I think a
That's what they're
valid
looking for.
concern is our tax rate. And if we can chip away and find creative ways
To do
to
it.
bring in revenue without expenses, it helps everyone. Everybody's taxes go down.
Yeah.
And now somebody who could almost afford to live here, but couldn't quite, now can.
Maybe it-
Because their taxes are
And-
not exploding.
And you were saying,
That's
Yeah.
real.
I've lost sales because people look at the tax
Of
rate and
course.
they say, we're not coming to Bolton.
Well,
We
It's
can't
not
afford
as
it."
immediate as addressing
With a lot of
lower moderate
concerns.
income seniors. I get that, but it's something.
but if
it's
we
a
can
step.
get 60 units of taxes with zero going
That's
to the
my
school.
point. That's not
That's
gonna
why
hurt.
I think.
That's good.
I personally think that's why we get rid of the 2X thing. Just say over 55. Because
I'm sensitive to limit, I want to keep this as broad as possible.
I know,
Give some options.
but I do think we end up
Eric,
hurting ourselves.
You're not gonna have all the developers wanting to do that.
Yeah.
That's my point,
You're
nobody's gonna
limiting-
use the damn.
What I'm saying is, as a town, do we get what we
Do you
want?
want Toll Brothers or them again in town?
I'm saying, as 2X.
You mean in the form of 40B?
If we have 2X, so 36 units, 2,400 square feet, how many kids is that,
Yeah,
so
but you only have
that's...
3 bedrooms.
Huh?
You only have up to 3 bedrooms.
Well, even if we say up to 2 bedrooms. So,
You're gonna get some kids, you're not gonna
You're
get
gonna
as many kids as we're getting with the
You might
developments.
give
we
people a
traditionally
chance to get in, because maybe they're going to be
yeah.
brand-new houses where they'll think, okay, I may have to pay $450, $500, but I'm getting a brand-new house.
So is the 2X to
And
the
they're not gonna get
4X,
that around here.
is the 2X of the 4X a big enough, like, differentiator?
do. Between the two.
But I'm also saying get rid of the affordable. So you go from 10% affordable to 0 affordable. So you get the extra 2X and you get this no affordable.
Again, it depends on the size of your lots too, because we talked about this before. I mean, we are way out in Bolton, right? So if I have 100 acres or something like that, I'm not taking the chance on building that much
Right.
affordable.
Yeah.
The sellout time is gonna be 10 years.
So by making it go to 0, that's a big step to allow,
Yeah.
to force people to 55.
It helps us go that way, there's no doubt about it. Because those affordables are losers. It's not even
How
like you
big?
don't make money, you lose money.
Couple, $300,000?
No,
186 for here.
we're 186
Okay.
for affordable here.
It's the same as Worcester.
And
So-
it's costing you to build, what, 110 bucks a foot vertical,
Oh,
120?
no, 150
Yeah.
Okay,
at least.
So it's a loss later that you never make
And that
up.
doesn't,
No doubt.
that doesn't
Okay.
count your infrastructure cost, your.
sure, sure, sure. Yeah.
So by making it 0 affordable for over 55, you really push people that way. But if they want to really do, not age restricted, fine, give them the 2X, but then they have to do the 10%.
Because then we are solving a problem. It's not as direct, but it is. catering to starters.
Maybe the losing that 10% affordable and going to 4X is a big enough leap to make people
You
wanna
can't
do
solve all
55.
problems with this one
No
iterate,
shit,
yeah.
with these.
No, I mean,
You
just
can
keep
chip
in mind
away
that we're alleviating one issue, but we're then aggravating our the 40B shortfall that the town has.
Right. Or anything.
The
Under the
yeah.
seniors, yes, we are,
Yeah,
absolutely.
under the seniors, yeah.
If we said no affordability, then
Yeah.
yeah, they could do a
So
phosphorus,
we're,
do one per
we're,
acre.
you know,
But that's
which
fine.
is-
I mean, we'll lose
Where
that
is the
big,
town in the 10%?
Say that again.
So
Where's
by
the-
like
Three,
74%.
three.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
Yeah,
Unless you go big apartments or anything like that, I mean,
We're
it's
not.
it's not gonna
yeah,
happen.
this,
One big apartment would do it.
well, right, but for the
Yeah.
affordable, the
Yeah,
3%,
sure.
this bylaw isn't gonna really
True.
do too much for it. We need to have an
No
apartment
doubt.
building.
Yeah, I know.
If
You
we-
got every one of your units
And
counts.
we can help with the affordable, and we could address her concerns too with that.
We need to address her concerns.
Yeah, but then that would address, an apartment building would address her concerns and the affordable more than, this is more about taxes, I think.
Yes, it
I
is.
totally agree.
Yeah,
But isn't that a problem the whole town can get behind?
yeah,
Fully agree.
yeah.
How many people?
It's only 28 units, but it's a HUD project.
So does the board
Yeah.
have an opinion on if there should be a cap on how many of these should be built?
Yeah, I know. That's a good one.
Like number of developments or number of total,
We don't want them popping up everywhere. I don't think they would, but
I mean, I guess we can always revisit, like, what are you thinking for a number?
I was thinking like a percentage on the number
But
of
so you're thinking
households
about the
we
total
currently
number of
have.
dwellings,
Yeah.
and your number came up to 100 dwellings.
I was just going off of how many households that we have in town that are
Do other
single-family
towns
homes.
limit it?
Stowe does. Yeah,
Does
they have a
Hoppy
cap.
too?
How, so
I
what's
don't
the
know
cap?
about, I just know Stowe does.
So you're capping the number of overall over 55 dwellings.
Yeah.
So one development could potentially
Well,
take them all.
over 55 or overall cottage?
Oh, cottage.
Projects
Yeah.
that utilize this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carlisle has some language in their bylaws that don't allow more than they.
Percentage of the stock?
No, it's, yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly what it is.
I think what Erica said is there's like 1,800 houses, so she said 6% of that is 100, so you can have 100 dwellings as a max. So maybe there's 2 developments with 50, or maybe there's one with 100.
Yeah, it might not be enough, but do we want to limit it? We probably
Well, it can
want
be
to look
more
at
than that. I was
Yeah.
just
Right,
kind of,
right.
that was just a
No,
starting
I,
number.
yeah.
I mean, reality is, Bolton's not gonna become a metropolis.
Right. It's not gonna happen in 1 year.
No.
But if by putting that clause in there, you kind of put like a placeholder for it to adjust, if we think, oh, it's starting to be too much, we can.
You guys
put that
use
down.
Complement and Page?
Who?
We do
Complement?
not, no. American O'Connell.
So do they, Myra O'Connor? So
American,
do
yeah.
they file the edges off after you've put your
They do.
template
Town
together?
council always reviews.
Yeah. And then, once the town votes, then it goes to the attorney.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think by putting a limit on, if we get a couple in town, people can see and we can always
Adjust it.
Adjust it. This work-
go back and,
Maybe the
change
numbers
it.
around there, then it's 8%, 6%, something like that.
How do you adjust it, though?
Well, you go to
Next
town
year.
meeting and change that
That
clause in the.
Is, once it's in writing and it's gone to the AG and comes back, is there any way to add flexibility at that point, or
I think
that's
it would
gone?
go back to town.
So
and then back to the
go all the way
AG.
back.
So if you
It'd
put
be an
in,
amendment, it'd be a
so
change.
if you put in, a 6% number,
Yeah.
which gets us to about 100, if a couple of these are developed and people say, okay, these aren't horrendous, and we go back and we say, okay, we want to change that 6 to 12.
The number
Yeah.
might not be 6.
Yeah,
It might
right.
be-
Yeah, I'm
If
just
it's
making
10,
that,
it's
you know.
180. I
Right,
mean,
yeah.
it's that
But
crazy.
by putting
Well,
a
that's
number-
what I was saying, even with the R1 lot, if we did it, that's 72, that's,
That's almost there. That's why I say,
Yeah.
6% is probably not enough. But to put something in there, it's probably.
but again, given the land stock here, and that just sort of talks to my point on the actual demand out
And
there.
the absorption, right.
In the absorption,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if that's where I like your 2X thing. I don't know if you really want to build 72 affordable units. Or
Not
age
affordable.
restriction, sorry, age restriction units. I don't know if you.
Not in one complex.
Well, you probably cap out at 66
That would be-
anyway. but-
Well, it's 66, I don't know if you want to build 66.
You would have
Yeah.
to demand.
That's why I disagreed with what was said a half hour ago about can it be age restricted and something else together? Why not?
That would be a great thing to do.
I mean, that would be,
Could we say like it needs to be a minimum of 50?
Yeah, that's what you said.
Say
Minimum percentage
minimum of
seniors
50
gets you the multiplier.
Minimum percentage of usage is age restricted or something like that.
I've never seen one that's mixed. They are out there?
I
Well,
believe they are.
condos, there's
Okay.
condos.
So that would mean, in his case, you'd have,
But now your affordability.
no, hold on.
No,
See,
you,
it gets complicated.
You'd
No,
have,
you would
you'd
just-
have 36 over 55, and you would have 18, and you'd have 18 non-age restricted.
right, but then, so
Market
then you
rate.
would need 10% of those, so you need 2 of those, whatever.
10% of the 18, of the, yeah.
10% of the 18.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
That's
hard
not,
to do the
that's not
math.
terrible.
That would be too complicated.
We just, I mean, we did it, it's 10:30 at night all the time.
Brad Cody's head would probably blow up at it, but
Yeah,
it's
but
not
it
too
took 10 of
complicated.
us to do
Yeah, that's a good point, touche.
Good point.
It was just that that's why we have complicated bylaws.
Yeah.
But it also creates more of a
I could get behind that, but say like a minimum has to be age restricted, like 50%.
50%, sure.
You know, the other thing too is, just spitballing here, you can go into different town rules and regs and pick pieces and parts and see how they've worked in those towns, and then do a compilation of those things stitched together, rather than try and reinvent the wheel here.
Well, because then also with that 50%, thinking about it now, that's kind of perfect, because no matter what you do, you'll always have twice as many age restricted to counterbalance the kids coming in the non-age
Right.
restricted. So it's at least break even with 2 bedrooms, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It almost works out perfect.
Yeah.
Because you'll always have 2/3,
A minimum of 2/3.
2/3 age restricted versus, you know what I mean? It kind of works out.
And the people
almost
with
perfect.
kids looking at these things will shy away from it because there's only 2 bedrooms. Which is,
And then you truly get.
Well, then you have
the
one kid.
Maybe.
Well, you have one kid, then once you have the second kid, you're like, oh, we gotta move up.
Or you've got 2 kids and you really want to be in the town, but you can't
Yeah.
afford it otherwise. I think there'd be a lot of that.
Well, then you got old people that'll be like, stop raising our taxes.
Let them have that. No, guys, but even if you fit the 2 kids, the 2/3 of the age restricted, if you do the 50% minimum, kind of works out. It doesn't get worse than even,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
that's a good point.
Well, you're not having 3 kids in a 2-bedroom. I mean,
Right.
if you can afford to
Yeah.
$550,000
Yeah.
house, you're not shoving 3
Yeah.
kids in a bedroom.
Yeah, you're gonna
Move.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. All right, you got all that?
Should go back and watch the tape.
No, I think I got most of it, yeah.
All right, I'm starting to see double.
So the
Yep.
2X and then the 6X, so we're saying 50% each we're allowing?
I
Or
think
is
you were
that the
saying,
requirement?
2X and 4X.
no, I think
But
you were saying 50% minimum age restricted. So you can do
So I'm
more
measuring
than
at
50
18.
age if you want.
Okay.
18, so if we're saying a minimum have to be age restricted, so that's 9, so 9 times 4, so that's 36
Yeah,
have to be
right.
there. And then 9 times 2, 18 is.
But if I wanted to, I could go 60% age restricted,
Yeah.
40%.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a condo development in Harvard that's half market rate, half senior. It's called Trail Ridge, and it's worked out
Yeah.
pretty nicely.
I think they've done that a bit in Boston
Yeah.
with affordable and,
I think we're onto something here.
Yeah.
see, you were against it before though.
Now you,
We'll change our mind.
Yeah, we'll get 'em.
now you just have to like put down all our ramblings onto paper.
Good luck. If you take the square route.
Okay, Jeff, time for you to go home.
Yeah,
Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Should we talk about pot now?
Real
You
quick,
guys want to sleep?
Super quick.
Let's make it 5 minutes. Okay, quick.
My 2 cents, I think a survey like this is a great idea. I used the same questions you did, Erica, but I kind of focused the attention a little bit more and just kind of
Yeah.
whittled it down
Yep.
to a little bit more simple yes or no, kind of cluster questions. Where would we put this? Would this be like a mailer?
It could be a mailer, I could ask Bolton Independent if they could stick a copy into their,
Okay, social media,
Yeah.
you could spread it around.
yeah, and then we'll have
The
it,
survey monkey thing.
yeah, I could do a survey, well, I could pay for that, so we'll see about that, we could do Survey Monkey.
I like a piece of paper sticking it in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to get that.
Yeah, everyone seems to read the Bolton.
And what, have
Yeah,
it
but
mail
it's
it back?
Yeah.
No, yeah, but make sure it's online too. you
Or
know.
drop
Okay.
it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have it on
Because
the
then somebody
website.
has to enter it
Yeah.
in if they do it in paper.
And I'll have it, I'll state on the, when they get the copy of the survey, you can also fill out, download a copy, fill it out, and then email it back.
Yeah, we prefer it to be done
Online.
online though, right? So you don't have to enter in,
I don't know how, if we don't have that capability, unless we do Survey Monkey,
Yeah, Survey Monkey.
Okay.
Why, does that charge you for over a certain number of respondents? Is that, I thought it was free.
Oh, I'll double check. Last time we.
I've always used it for free, but I've never done it to
all
like
right. Oh, I don't know.
1,000 people. Yeah,
Okay.
they might get upset at that.
Yeah, there is something, there's, they do charge in some cases,
Yeah.
not.
I liked, I guess, Erica, you had the long list of questions, right?
I did. The reason I had separated out the growing, manufacturing, and testing is only because the town can opt to do one of any of those
Yeah,
or
okay.
all of them.
I
or
like
none of them.
touristic questions,
Um,
but I do like you saying adding a little bit of history to it.
That was Erica's idea, to
feel like-
kind of have a little thing that says up front, look, this is why we're talking about it.
This is Erica's.
At the ballot box, you approve this, and as a reminder, a couple of years ago, we approved medicinal. This is what we did for a town, for our bylaw for medicinal, and so it's a very similar drill for recreational. Here's some questions that will allow us to kind
I
of.
feel like we're gonna get skewed results on the grow question though, because everyone's like, yeah, grow it, because like,
Well,
envisioning adorable little marijuana farms,
Maybe
You
I
have
can
to
find
say
a
it's-
picture or something.
Yeah,
on
like, this is
there.
what
This
that
is what it
means.
looks like.
It's an industrial operation.
Commercial grow.
Okay, that's a good
Okay,
idea,
that's a
yeah.
good way.
Say commercial grow and industrial, because it has to be indoors.
It does.
Does it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah. I
so
think
maybe
you're
say indoor commercial grow.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
so people,
Understand that
It's
it's
an
not a
industrial-
field, in
yes.
someone's, backyard or whatever.
yeah.
Farmers market.
But people can grow 6 plants in their yard anyway.
Yeah, you can grow your own.
That's not what we're
so that's
talking about.
not-
Yeah.
That's,
That's what I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
that's what I said.
If you want to have a cute little pot farm, just do it in your backyard.
You moving on this
What?
farmer's market thing? Karen tells me you're behind this farmer's.
What do you mean
I don't know.
behind it?
She said, "Hey, you
Well, it
put
doesn't
your
sound like
yourself
anybody
behind
wants
this
it.
farmer's market."
No,
I'd be into
well,
it.
EDC, I was just saying, we need like a fall in town event.
Stop the chit-chat. That'd be cool.
Personally, I'm against pot shops or growing it especially. I mean, definitely against industrial grow. But, I mean, if we're talking about, say, like 470 Main Street, right? I mean, if there's something that, I mean, it kind of hurts the rest of the businesses, I think. I don't feel like it fits, not in Bolton, you know? I don't feel like it fits in Bolton. I don't know what anybody else thinks. I mean, we could ask the people, but
We should ask the people.
We should ask the people, but I don't think I would, you know, I don't think I would vote for it personally.
I feel like the bylaw questions or the setback questions are a little bit too technical for people.
Right, the 500s.
Yeah, I think we would simplify that.
I tried to
But
get,
even-
because
even
I think
those-
people will come back and be like, no, it should be 675. Okay,
Like if it's a yes or no,
Take a picture.
who's not gonna say no to that, right?
Where? Which one?
Question 4 on yours, Dave. Should the location of any establishment be set back from certain uses, including residence, schools, as blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well,
Just take the
Yeah,
names.
that's a little leading the way around it.
who's not
I-
gonna say
yeah,
yes to
you're right.
that, right? Of course there should be. I mean,
Check on Facebook. Share if you also love your grandchildren. No, I hate it.
Yeah, we should
I
ask
just
the
don't know how
people.
useful setback questions
I mean, what do you guys
Okay.
think? I mean, I feel like I'm a no against it. Is anybody like
I'm not a no.
You're a no against what?
pot shops?
I'm not a no. I'm a yes for that.
I mean, yeah.
I'm just thinking, I don't know. I feel like it would hurt other businesses.
I think there's a tax incentive, so we at least need to.
Well, that's
like the taxes,
yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see what the town
You have
says.
liquor stores, why don't you have marijuana stores?
I don't know.
And we have fought hard against banning adult shops.
Just because it's embarrassing, I'm not going up there.
It is.
Hey, Aaron, I'm not going to get
I'm gonna plant some people with those questions too.
Can the associate member go up there?
It's like, actually,
It's like planning board hell week.
The person that's not here is
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
It's incentive to show up to meetings, right?
This is the bin.
So I think they're good except for the
4.
setback questions.
Okay.
Even 3.
Where's 3?
Town.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of leading the question by
Then you say
saying.
clarify your response, like, oh, come
That's what you don't
on.
like.
No, it wouldn't work.
Should it be allowed to be located only within?
It may be that should the existing medical marijuana treatment centers be expanded to include recreational sales as well?
Should, yeah.
Something to, you know, it's kind of like, we already
That's what I'm
have
trying to
the
do. That's what I'm trying to
medical.
do.
Should we just expand that, or expand what's allowed there to include the
Yeah, I
think so.
recreational?
Because,
Clear.
I mean, if we were to have it, then that would keep it out of the limited business area. So we just keep it in the industrial.
Interesting point on that, though, right now,
Uh-oh.
I don't even know if we really allow medical marijuana, because Paragon, the last I had heard, they were going to put in a daycare center. That creates a whole new offset in Paragon and Cobbin, which are really the
Both?
only 2 properties, so I don't even
Scary.
know.
Environmental pools?
No.
That's what they're really trying to do.
Eh,
No, the only place in our current medical marijuana where it could be is Paragon or Cobb.
And that's what you said.
Not if
She's saying
there's
if they put
daycare
daycare in
Not
there.
if there's daycare.
What's the?
Well, that's not, I mean, they put it in after, so it is, you know, it already went through the
Yeah, it's
attorney
already
general.
zoned, so-
Somebody's saying, de
No, I'm just
facto,
saying,
you
then
can't
if we
have
go back and we say we allow recreational where we allow medical, we're not really.
Are they
allowing
officially
it.
putting that in though? Has that already
I
happened?
reached out to.
Can we just block
to
our
see-
ears, you know? Just get this in before that happens. You know? Huh?
Can't block everybody else's ears.
Oh, please, 11:15? Or even if you stream it, come on. We can say whatever we want right now.
All right, so I guess if you guys can just let me know which sections to include, I'll finalize it.
You gotta get rid of
I mean, that's always been an issue of, you know,
That's
if you've got areas that are.
One of your kids,
for the use,
let your couch, your kids probably have some food on their couch.
you know, or builds a daycare center, you
Maybe
know,
syrup, put it all over the
which
couch.
supersedes which.
Oh, jeez, there's so much for that cushion.
You know, I would kind of say if we carved out a zoning area for that, then the people that are looking.
I think
for
the
daycare,
survey is good.
they should feel
I'm
like
gonna
their
guess
area
the town's gonna come in and
is
say
zoned
they don't want it.
wrong.
We've carved it out in the sense that we researched it, but it wasn't stated in the bylaw. It just says it needs to be
I
offset
think people
from. where children congregate.
I think it was split.
Right, but
It doesn't say-
but we said that these parcels.
I know, well, no, because Facebook,
That,
I mean, it's like,
is allowed.
it's not real.
It's just,
So if
Districts,
it,
we say districts.
well, okay.
If you limited it, if you limited it to the industrial area, I could maybe get
Yeah,
behind it.
industrial.
So those
land.
areas are, we've said, medical is allowed. So if somebody's looking to put a daycare in there, they should be aware of that
I'm just,
it is allowed that currently a medical
Screw up with too many
dispensary
people.
next door to them.
too many people.
Because it's, you
I don't
know,
think.
Fall River.
well, which has, so the way to prevent it from going
They
in
say it's not
anywhere would be
addictive, but it
just
is a
go,
lifestyle.
you know, strategically
I don't know.
open a couple of daycares that overlap with the existing medical marijuana zoning, and then we can't, then,
Yeah, I mean, I think.
I think that kind of goes.
hang around for the kickback and then vacate.
Yeah, but,
Well,
so
If we,
obviously,
if we had specifically said, you know,
Daycares
medical
can't.
marijuana could go into Paragon, could go into Cobham, then we would be covered, but we didn't do that. We just said, it could go in the industrial, it could go.
yeah,
in
but
the
somebody will have to go to the
business.
Attorney General and fight it at that point, right? He'd be like, you know, hey, this is where we can have it, but because there's a daycare here now, we can't have it. I mean,
Right,
it's not, it's already
No, I
past the
don't
Attorney
even know
General.
that they would fight it. They would just do the research themselves and say,
Yeah.
look, I can't even find a parcel, so let's go
Perfect.
look somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, but doesn't that circumvent the
Yeah,
whole reason for,
that's what Hudson's
you know?
for.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I mean, the whole point was that towns
Yeah.
had to allow it
Hipster pop shop.
somewhere.
Which we were.
Which we do.
Yeah.
But now, but doesn't.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. The daycare should say, well, this is, and this is allowed for.
One abstain.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that'd be